me and Ryan have been officially welcomed to the jungle that is Barstool Sports.
Our white whale, Sidney Crosby.
Shave his head! Shave his head! Shave his head!
Ryan Whitney, Paul Bissonette, R.A., Mike Grinelli, Spittin Chiclets.
What is up, folks? How y'all doing? Yeah, I'm saying y'all because the Georgia Bulldogs are SEC champs. You see this hat? 47 brand, one of our sponsors. Let's go, dogs. Go dogs. Welcome to episode 535 of the Spittin Chiclets podcast. This is your boy Whit. Talking right now, we got Keith Yandel joining us. We got Biz. We got a bunch to catch up on. But first, we got to talk about Pink Whitney. Head on over to your local bar and make sure to order some Pink Whitney. Pink Whitney, I love the drink. Winter, summer, fall, spring, doesn't matter the season. Pink Whitney always makes for an excellent evening, afternoon, or even morning if you're a real sicko. But Pink Whitney's where it's at. It's exceptionally smooth, great tasting vodka with notes of refreshing lemon. Pink Whitney is the number one flavored vodka. Can you believe that? Number one. First time I've been number one in anything. And now they have the 1.75 liter bottle. More
the
of
big old bottles.
More of that big old bottle beers down south for the SEC title game. More of the Pink Whitney we know and love. Great for parties and sharing with friends. Take your shot with Pink Whitney. Boys, how are y'all doing?
Whoa, you guys got me watching the Georgia Bulldogs. Like I'm invested because you guys are. Now you can only talk in that Georgia accent.
I'll do the whole goddamn podcast talking about Gunnar Stockton, that backup QB coming in winning the SEC title game. You want to talk about some dogs? You want to talk about some dogs? An incredible game. It just unbelievable. Like I was nervous. Now they were in even if they lost, according to what I read. But it's all about winning your league, you know, Biz. It's like when you never won the O though, did you? You never won shit, right? You want to call the cup?
No, that's true. I did. Hey, but also the SEC is the strongest division of all of football. It's like people say that the top teams can compete with NFL teams.
No. That's a take that gets really ridiculed.
That's like the
so
Michigan
down south
coach.
Right now, you getting carved.
That's like the Michigan hockey coach saying that Michigan's the next step under the NHL.
Oh, okay. So that's what you thought of that take? Like you think an AHL team would cripple them?
Of course they would.
Okay. Well,
maybe the year that they could have maybe given it. Yeah, they're losing to NHL teams, college teams against professional sports teams. I mean, we're talking like mercy ruled. Like, hey, it's 11-0 in ping pong. You're off the table. You know what I'm saying? Actually, speaking of Georgia, they just built a brand new 3,000-seat arena for their club hockey team where every girl at the school thinks the kids are in the NHL. So I was on the rink shrinks with Brian Yandel and Mike Mutto. I said, if you're looking to go play at like Salem State and you could possibly get into an SEC school and play club hockey, you're absolutely crazy. I understand these NESCAC schools, amazing education so-called nowadays. I don't know what you're really learning at school if you're a liberal arts major like myself in Maine, but I will say that this club hockey thing, it's just going through the roof, Biz. It's amazing. Okay. It's amazing. But
going back to that liberal arts thing, wasn't there like a photo that went viral where this girl got a degree for smelling or something? Did you guys see that thing that went viral? No. Maybe don't let our demo
could have
here.
been like on Uriah where a girl like wanted to smell you. I don't know what you're thinking of there.
But G, yeah, message in the chat if I'm going crazy here, if that actually happened. But going back to the game, that first drive by that backup QB, I'm like, I think they got something here.
Yeah, it changed everything.
Can we talk about the hit that he took and got up and still? I thought he broke his leg, ACL, MCL, ankle, tibia, fibia, head almost came off his body.
Keep going.
And then he's the L5 S1. And then his helmet comes off. They have to drag him. They didn't let him play because the spotters came down with like, hey, this guy's basically decapitated. You got to take him out for a play. The entire nation knew that they were going to run the ball. They ran the ball right down their damn throat, Whitty.
Right down the middle. They gave the starter, Carson Beck, he comes back in. He can't even move his arm. And then he just hands it right off. Game over. SEC title. Biz, that girl went viral for her thesis to her PhD being about smells being racist. So you were like 1/10 of the story, I think,
Okay,
correct?
wow.
But I guess
do it
smells are racist. So I don't know if like
Okay.
my smell of my fart I did recently is racist. I've been now blaming certain farts on like kids. Like the kids are old enough. I'm like, that was not me, Ryder, admit it. And he's like crying, like, I didn't fart. You know, sometimes you just got to face the music, bud. I remember my dad blaming me for some. So that's
when
how
in
it
doubt,
goes.
blame it on the dog. They can't talk back.
Very true, actually. I never blamed it on Yoshi. I've never blamed it on. He's too
He doesn't
dumb.
even like you. I'm surprised.
No, he hates my guts. Can't wait to get a golden retriever someday.
I got
I
to
wanna-
do that coast to coast show with Yands last week.
I
don't
just
know
want
if,
to finish one topic of the dogs. I was at a bar in Tampa. I was up there for the girls lacrosse tournament. This place called Walk-Ons, awesome little bar, but the whole place was going insane. It was all Georgia dogs, and then there was like 3 Texas fans sitting over there. Everyone's giving them the horns down. It was unbelievable. I became like best buddies with the guy sitting next to me. I sat down. I'm like, who are you rooting for? He's like, anyone but Texas. I was like, my man. Gave him a high five, and we were going insane the entire game. It was so fun.
I was sitting in Starbucks this afternoon having a coffee, you know, just catching up on things, getting ready for the show, being a pro's pro, as they call it. And a very attractive woman started walking over towards me. I'd say 35 to 40 years old. And I was like, still got it, still got it, still got it. And then she just pointed at my hat. Well, she pointed at me, and I'm like, what's up? What's up? How you doing? Yeah, I'm married. See my ring? See my ring? She's like, no, your hat. And then she just like pulled her jacket apart, had a Georgia shirt. She goes, go dogs. Whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, these women, these people from Georgia are nuts. They're sickos, Biz. It's all they care about. So I've been rocking
You
this
have a
little
random
day.
cougar barking in your face over college football.
Yeah. I was eating one of those egg sausage, the egg sausage sandwich at
It's nice.
Starbucks. No free ads. I don't get the cheese on it, and I take one of the pieces of bread off, so I feel like I'm
Oh, wow.
cutting
This
some.
sounds a lot like my ordering that I got criticized for.
Oh, when I go, hey, can I get the egg sausage and cheese without cheese? Not, can I get the egg sausage and cheese, but just try a bite, and then I'll give it back to you. Then you can give me the egg bites, then I'll try a bite, and I'll give it back to you. And then maybe just give me a little bit of yogurt and put a little bit of granola on it, and we'll be good. Actually, speaking of coast to coast, I haven't talked to you guys in so long. It was awesome watching you guys. It's amazing being able to get that broadcast through ESPN Plus.
Oh, okay.
What? Forget the hockey. Forget the Josh Morrissey talk. Very funny. Keith, apparently, Biz had another ridiculous restaurant order experience with you.
Well, it started at Starbucks.
There you go.
Started at Starbucks. I texted him. I said, hey, I'm at Starbucks. We were going to go to Chipotle, which was right next to it. I was there before him. I go, hey, I'm at Starbucks. You want something? He goes, yeah, just get me, did they have a blonde roast, whatever, named like 3 roasts. And then he's like, just get me whichever one's the freshest. And I'm like, okay. I asked the lady, I go, which one's the oldest coffee that you guys have? And she was like, oh, this blonde roast has been out the most. I go, I'll have that. Thank you. As if anyone's ever, so whatever. He gets his Starbucks. We go into Chipotle. We're in line. There's a new meat that we didn't know what it was. So I'm like, hey, what is that meat? And what was it, Biz? Brisket?
Brisket.
Yeah,
Brisket.
they were like, oh, it's the new brisket. Biz was like, oh, can I try that? Can I get a sample?
No, Biz. Biz. This is not
Erroneous.
this is not like
Erroneous.
acceptable social behavior.
So
Time out.
she
Can we back
she
it
gets
up?
the little cup that they put like the
Guac.
probably the guacamole in. Yeah, exactly. Puts a little in there. He 1x it. It's Phil. It's like this much. It's like he could have went home
gave him a
after.
lot.
Like he could have been done for the day. Finishes it, and then he's like, yeah, no, I don't want it. It's a little too spicy. So I asked the manager comes over. I'm like, has anyone ever asked for a sample here in the history of Chipotle? The guy's like, not once, never seen it, not one time.
She
I was like,
gave
all
him
right,
a
thank you.
sample, and he's like, no, just throw a little
Yands-
guac on top, too.
Yands goes, what's that one? And then she said brisket. And then he goes, you should ask for a sample. I go, can I get a sample? He told me to. So he gave me the green light to do it. So I was like,
I
okay.
think
I knew
he's
you'd
doing
do
it
it.
thinking he would never hear. He would never hear.
Yeah.
Imagine if, was this down in Florida, actually, or were you?
No, this was
No, it was
in
in
New Jersey.
Secaucus.
Surprised I
Oh,
didn't
'cause
get
I was
shot.
going to say, if it was Florida and some dude randomly happened to be in there that was in Sloan's that night and got double whammied by you asking for fucking trials or taste tests, the poor prick would have just jumped off the roof.
You know who sent me the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode clip was
Shaddy
Shaddy
texted me and he's like, "This is unbelievable." I go, "It was worse. It was worse than that." And I wasn't nearly as funny as Larry behind you, just disgusted with it all.
Biz used to, he'd be like, "Can I get the Caesar salad, but instead of romaine, can I get the iceberg with, and then instead of Caesar dressing, could I get blue cheese and bacon bit?" They're like, "Oh, that's the wedge salad." He'd be like, "Yeah, but I want it as a Caesar."
Can you put a grape in there? The guy's like, "Grape?" Like, yeah, they're fresh this time of year. So did you guys enjoy working together? Must have been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Very, I would say the first half was a lot more high octane, just because there were so many more games, Eastern starts. As you know, a lot of them are not staggered, so you're boom, it's off and running. And then that night they only had 2 West Coast games, which was Calgary, St. Louis, and then Edmonton smoked somebody. I forget who it was. So you get a little bit more of the gameplay in action as opposed to like us coming on camera as much, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what it's exactly like the NFL red zone, where it's just you read and react. You're talking about plays, teams go on power plays. You're kind of just reviewing goals, hits, big
so
saves.
Easy to do that.
It's such a blast though, because you're watching all these games, and then you got TVs everywhere, and then something happens over here, and then Biz is watching something, I'm watching something else, and then Andy does such a great job as the bus driver, just kind of bringing it all in together. So it was me and Biz, anytime doing something with Biz is fun, but we had a blast together.
We were just shitting on each other. Andy Petrillo does a great job of snapping it around and like keeping the conversation fluid. And you're messing around sometimes, but then she'll turn it over to like, what do you make of what's going on with this team this year in this situation? And then we kind of talk more hockey, but it was great working with them and a great concept by the league. Like we talk about all these different broadcasts and different networks that are getting in the mix. So I feel like hockey definitely needed like a version of red zone. People like to be stimulated and maybe they're more fans of the league than just one team.
Biz, your Porge Garros discipline suspension of Brad Marchand, one of the funniest things you've ever done. Accompanied with you in a neck brace, and I think something else, maybe a wrap around your head when interviewing him.
My dome.
Classic week of content for you on TNT.
Yeah, because the week prior we had Marchie on, and that's when that fight story all broke loose, and then that's when he came back after I chirped him about the hairline, about just want to look like the guys who beat the wheels off you, and then that just kind of propelled it into. Then we had the outline call the following Monday, and I'm like, guys, we got them against Chicago. Like, I like Chicago and all, and I know we got Bedard to talk about, but this is a potential skit that we could do if you guys are interested. And the whole team jumped on board. Liam, Tyler Lassiter, Morgan, like the whole crew from TNT was behind it and helped execute it when we got to the studio. So I was just thankful that they were able to do it. And boys, like Marchie, like, give me 12, 15 more guys in the league like Marchie. I think we'd be bringing in more revenue than the NBA. Like, it is that was fucking comedy. He's so quick on his feet, and he just put me in another casket, as you mentioned, and buried me again.
NBA's falling low right now. Everything that I see there, it's no one wants to see just people shooting threes, and it's a bad product. And you guys know I love basketball. Like I watch basketball.
Brutal.
It's not a good product. Hockey's in a good place right now.
I don't know what they do about that. Where it's literally 3 after 3 after 3, and I there has to be discussions with the high ups right now. Like, what do we do if the ratings are down as much as I read now? Sometimes you see, like, I don't necessarily know what to believe on the internet. I don't know that's kind of an issue for people these days. Like, I don't know if the ratings are down as bad as I'm seeing they are, because it seems like people who hate the NBA are the ones tweeting this stuff. But yeah, like, I don't watch it, but if you throw it on and you just see 3 after 3, it's like I don't see the excitement in that. But I think that's all analytics, like telling them, like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's the best way to win games, score points. I have no idea. But Biz, it was classic to see that. Marshy kind of pumped my tires. That's the last thing he probably wanted to do. The last time I saw him, he was driving. He drove past me in Milton, and I shot him a text, and then he chirped me back like real hard, just classic Marchand style. I feel bad saying I can't wait for him to retire, but that's only because he promised he'd come on then, and it'll be amazing. I mean, I can't imagine.
But even for him to do that, an unreal chirp about that was post game about the carrying, right? That was that post game. Like the fact that he goes and does the pregame, he ended up being late for the power play meeting as a result to that interview, and then goes out there and scores 2 goals and then finishes me off with that dagger that you just mentioned. So it was just classic Brad Marchand. And I don't know how many messages I'm seeing from other fan bases who hated this guy's guts who are starting to say that they're now a Brad Marchand fan. So that is, they've done a complete 180 based on what he brought to the broadcast back-to-back weeks. What did you make of it, Yands?
Yeah, he's great. I've known March. I played junior with Marchie. I played with him in Moncton. So
I always forget
knew
that because he wasn't even like a big player on that team, right?
He was, I think he's probably so he was probably a younger player, maybe like 17 years old, 16 or 17 years old. But you could tell he had like that ratness in him, but he also had crazy skill. He scored some like crazy high-end goals, but he was probably on like our third line, probably didn't even play power play, was, just a young kid in the cube making his way, but he was still funny, like chirping guys and being ruthless like he is today. So, I've always loved him and his antics. He's been great for the league for close to 15 years now, probably.
He's so skilled. I didn't realize until I skated with him during the lockout, Keith, when we were with him. You're just like, holy shit. So he's actually heating up as well. Good for him. We talked about the surgeries. Bruins definitely look a little bit better. I think that game might have technically got Luke Richardson fired. I think they fired him after that game, I believe.
Well, Bedard was, I think he ended up breaking another stick and just a little bit frustrated.
No, he's breaking sticks every game.
Okay. Do you remember Sid getting that frustrated in the first couple years?
He got 100 points his rookie year and then won the MVP and the scoring title, I think, his second year. So there wasn't really much for him. I mean, the famous stick breaking thing for me is when Malkin had 5 assists and we won 5-0 and he was smashing his stick in the shower after because he didn't score against Toronto.
Yeah.
So that was kind of classic. Before we kind of get into the hockey biz, one more thing. I guess as of right now, today the videos will be released of your melee with the Irish Travelers.
So I got to see them. They're going to release them tomorrow. Pretty much, like I said, everything that I talked about, that how it starts inside the restaurant to how it goes outside, how at first there's 9 guys and it drops off to like 6 or 7. Then by the end, it's about 6 guys. The only thing that sucks as of right now is there's no video of me knocking out that William Carroll guy, because you're going to see the last video that has the best clarity. Whereas there's a tree blocking it, and it's actually like a street camera, but because there's movement and there's nothing else on the street moving, it veers over, and it has a whole shot of when we come out past the dumpsters after that happens, and then one guy tackles me, and then they just start boot fucking me. So you get the visuals of the whole shenanigans from inside the restaurant all the way, and how it works its way all the way around the parking lot. So you guys will see it. It sucks that we couldn't get me knocking out William Carroll, but you'll know he's not one of the guys that's chasing me past the dumpster. So he took his right to the chin, and it was a crazy experience. And let's see if they show up to their fucking court date.
Did you see DraftKings has the odds whether they'll come to the court date or not? I took the under. It's minus 10,000 that they won't show.
That Shea Stevens guy online is saying that their camp is saying that I started it. So that's so maybe they will come in defense, all 6 of them. The Scottsdale
Typical goon.
We're innocent here. We were just finishing up business that he started. So it should be interesting, but I would guess what you guessed and they don't show up.
Yeah. Imagine your credibility if the videos were released and you just walked up to him in Houston and suckered him.
Just
It'd be like, whoa, Biz, I think we got some issues here, buddy. You ever heard of the internet? Biz.
Just done.
My last thing. Well, one thing. We have Bryan McCabe on today's episode, which was an awesome interview. We sat down with him at Keith's house a couple weeks back. Great interview. I think you'll all enjoy that. We have Larry Brooks on. He came on to discuss all the happenings in the Rangers and the New York Rangers organization, what's gone on the last week that we'll get into ourselves. And Sean Avery popped in with that interview to give a little hello and talk to Larry a little bit. They go back a long time from Aves' time with the Rangers. But my final thing before we get to everything else is it's kind of time for my annual complaining about Elf on a Shelf. For people without kids, there's an elf. You name the fucking elf. The thing shows up. Every night you got to switch it around. It's like a who's who and a what's what to what you can do, what you can make your elf do, how original you can make it. If you forget to move the elf, the kids are crying. It's an absolute joke. The one thing that does crack me up is our elf's name is Keithy. So Keith, as many people have known, tough name, great guy, tough name. He even says it himself. Sorry, Keith. It was said in Family Guy. You know it's true. What's the worst name in the English language? Keith. Open the door. So Keith is back, and it's funny. This morning he came back this morning, and Ryder. All I heard from upstairs was Keithy. I started laughing no matter what. So then
that was me. I was in your living
Do you
room.
do this elf on a shelf, Yands?
Yeah.
You still do it for your daughters?
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for Wet. That
Oh,
What?
it's not real.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know when I had to pretend that it was like brushing. Its
Yeah, no,
teeth
my kids
tonight.
are past that, which is a huge plus because I don't have to do it.
And none of us grew up with this, so I think people, I don't know, 30 and older didn't have it. I don't know when it came, but some person, I hope they're laughing with bundles and bundles of money like Scrooge McDuck over this thing. I don't know when it came into existence, but now everyone needs one. And I get the text. Wife goes to bed. Hey, forgot to move Keithy. Like, do something funny. Like, okay, let me spend the next 45 minutes trying to figure out how to get him on a cookie tray next to some chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin cookies and see him kind of eating some with chocolate on his mouth. So it's a disaster. There was this note, though, that my wife
you should
wrote.
burn them like the lasagna.
She says,
You should just put them in there. Like, oh, I left them overnight. No.
I used to do the Hershey's kiss and make him look like he was taking a poop.
there you go. So
I'd do that once a week.
I got tonight's. But now, like, Ryder just turned 7. He's like, how does he get here? And I think it's like the wheels are spinning a little bit. Like, what's going on? Like, why aren't his eyes moving? I got that once. I'm like, just shut up and behave, or else he's gonna tell Santa. My wife wrote this note. I'm back.
Yands draws in red in the eyes like he's popping blood vessels, taking shits. It's all in the detail.
Biz
all in
has
the
his
detail.
with like an enormous blunt. It's just you're like, oh, Biz,
I have Snoop on a stoop. I have the Snoop Dogg one. It's called Snoop
really?
on a Stoop. Yeah, it's him. It's Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, and he has a blunt in his mouth.
No.
Yeah, I
Is
think
he-
I have it out here.
You got him bending
I'll go
Martha
get it.
over at any of those
I have
poses
it out
or
here.
no?
Hold on, I have it right here.
Get it. This is the note, though. I'm back. The day has come to play and laugh and have some fun. Each day I'll be watching. Be kind and be sweet. I'll fly back to Santa at night while you sleep. Remember to be good and spread holiday cheer. I can't wait for all the fun we have this time of year. Ho, 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 Keithy. I was like, oh my God, you're so talented. She's like, that's on the internet. I didn't write that myself. Still, she shouldn't have told me because I would have believed that my wife had a chance.
Snoop on a stoop.
Oh shit.
That's pretty
That is
legit.
unreal.
I didn't know he actually had a blunt in his mouth.
And then Martha Stewart.
Actually, that kind of reminds me. I don't know why I forgot. First 3 episodes have been released of Surviving Barstool. I guess it's the blunt in the mouth, and it reminded me of Gilly, which reminded me
Gilly.
of Surviving Barstool. Biz, what have you thought? Have you watched them, Biz, or no?
I've watched probably like a total of like a little over 1 episode, just like periodically and just traveling. But like, yeah, it's everything that I remember. Like Gilly kind of steals the show the first couple episodes. He's just a cartoon character. He gets a hold of that helmet. The way that like Jersey Jerry was treating it like it was the mob. I was there to play
That clip. Did you see the clip with you and him?
Yeah, where I was playing a clean cut game and I just get thrown in this fire of guys just going to mental warfare right from puck drop. Like there's no softening process. Hey, worry about winning your comps and keep it chill. Those guys were going to work early, but that's why I think it cost Jersey Jerry his spot. Cause it was like he was plotting too quick where nobody trusted him.
Yeah. He was playing
So
the game too hard.
I'm all in on this show. I am all in.
It's great. It's
and
great.
you guys have been great besides Wit doing the fuck Wit, dude. When
Dude.
you were shooting that thing.
Dude, I was bringing it back like 4 inches, thinking about accuracy. And then I look over and Kelly Keegs is laying down, like bringing this thing back like a rocket ship. And I was like, this is so, and I was in my own head.
I thought maybe it was a water balloon that you were afraid to break the balloon while you were bringing it back. And then I'm like, no, these aren't water balloons. But why did Big Cat not tell you? I didn't like that out of Big Cat. He told.
I have no idea. I
didn't like
no
that
idea.
One bit.
I did not like that one bit. I just think back to Biz, like being in the show. It feels like it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But at the end, finally at the end, when everyone goes home, I think you and I were in a car together and looked at each other and just said, like, get me the fuck.
You think it's
home.
the entire universe. You don't understand real life outside of this game. We won't give out any more spoilers. We'll try to maybe trickle a few stories in from each one throughout the next month or two. And you got to go watch it though. A lot of people are saying
incredible.
probably one of the best produced things Barstool has ever done. The quality, the manpower they put behind it. They outsourced people who were doing all the audio. And they were militant, when we would turn our audio on, like every person, the confessional situation. So
more militant than
that's what you're gonna say.
Attention.
Last thing, did you guys appreciate my acting when Robbie Fox got gassed? Did you see my? And nobody could even see me. Like that's how dumb I am. Like I'm in the back.
But the camera's got it. The camera's got it. That's all that matters.
Got it. So episode 4 is tonight. This is on Rumble and YouTube. Episode 5 tomorrow. Episode 6 every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There'll be an episode. Even if you're not into Barstool, I recommend going and checking it out because it's entertaining. It's a great product. And it's a lot of fun. So
24 heavy hitters. And I guess they put it on Rumble because there's certain things they can put on that one they can't put on YouTube. This seemed to be the issue last year when they released it.
Well,
so
that's why he was going to blow someone's head up. I mean, blow someone's house up. So that was it.
Oh, you can't. Yeah. So YouTube does not allow threats to blow people's houses up, but Rumble seems to allow that when taken within context. So enjoy it and looking forward for you guys for your feedback on that too.
But YouTube allows me to see Mincy's body, and that guy is absolute filth.
That guy is one of the dumbest people.
When they announced him to your team,
I was like, no.
Oh God.
Yeah, everyone needs a Mincy. Just fucking guys.
I'm actually glad all this. I know as we move to hockey, I'm actually glad all this Ranger stuff happened before we get Yands on. He played for the Rangers. He knows what it's like being there and the pressure under the bright lights. And we got Larry Brooks coming on. I'm sure you had a couple run-ins in a good way with him. Like you always seem to really get along with media throughout your career.
Yeah, I had no issues with Larry, and probably because I never read anything that he wrote on me, and I'm sure he absolutely dogged me a lot of the times, but I never really, because I didn't want to have those relationships with guys, you seeing them every day. I never wanted to have a bad relationship with a media. I know they have to do their job and write, hit pieces sometimes and stuff like that. So I never, or even if they wrote something about a teammate, I wouldn't like to read that either. So I never read anything. I stayed out of that stuff. He was always very cordial with me, nice guy. I know some like Dan Boyle, he was there. I was there for that year that Boiler flipped out on him at the year-end meetings, telling him to get out of the room, and he wasn't going to do the interview. And Boiler had told me before he was going to do it, he was like, hey, I have mine next. You might want to just stick around the locker room for this. So I got a front row seat to that, and Larry's like, nope, I'm not leaving. And Boiler was just boiling, like, this guy doesn't leave, I'm going to absolutely overreact, because he knew he was retiring too. So it was his last ever outro meeting. So he was all in. And I wish I could remember what he said to him exactly, but it's just one of those things. He had probably read one or two too many things that he didn't like and just had enough.
We'll get to it in the interview. I think he said that he tried to bury the hatchet with Boyle.
Yeah.
And he said Boiler was not having it. I don't know what he wrote about him or said about him that set him off to that degree, but do you remember one thing in particular?
No, I do not. I wish I did. I should have texted Boiler.
Text him now while we're on the show. Maybe he'll get back to you by the time we're done.
Yeah, ask him like what was the thing that like really sent you over the edge that Brooksy had written. But that kind of brings us into go ahead, Biz.
Well, I was gonna say and go, hey, we got him on the pod. Do you have any questions for him?
He might not respond if you tell him.
He would not like me if he knew that I was talking to him. He's such a stubborn old man, one of the best guys ever too, but just a stubborn guy. And he would never. If Larry Brooks was like, "I'll give you $1 million to sit down with me and just hash it out," he'd be like, "Mm-mm."
No. So as stubborn as Derek Morris.
Very cut from the same cloth. Those two.
Same person. Okay, we got to get him on at some point. Oh my god, he's coaching. Joey Superstein's brother, Rafi.
Oh, nice.
He loves him as a coach. I go, buddy, he is so fucking intense.
So smart too.
He was a nail gun when he played. I remember him 6 days a week he would go into that Exos. He was a machine.
He was an animal in the gym.
Wait, he would leave the rink and work out somewhere else?
No, summertime. But even at the rink, like during the season, like I would say that from all the guys I played pro with, he had probably one of the strongest work ethics I'd ever seen on and off the ice. Like gamer in practice, like always on. He actually had pretty silky mitts too. Like the way that he could walk and he was a reliable passer. Like I always thought he was one of our more underappreciated players when he was with the Coyotes, like for what he was making at the time.
Did so much for my career. I got to play with him like my first 4 or 5 years. He was a general on the ice. He just like told you where to go. He was so good talking. He would just be like, all right, you stay in front of the net. I'll go to each corner, because he was a savage, and he would just like blow people up in the corner, and I would just stand there, and he was unbelievable.
And kind of one of those undercover nail guns wit where you're like,
well, I was just going to
say,
well, no, I didn't fight him. I went on his Keith's bachelor party with him, and then he beat the wheels off me, I believe, the next season.
Okay,
behind the net. I
memo.
think I was celebrating an overtime winner, and he didn't like it, and he just boom, bing, didn't give a shit. Done. Lay down, Wit. Shut your mouth.
Behind the
that
dumpster.
Was the same bachelor party that we played a Trump golf course on the way in New Jersey, on the way to the city. And Trump was in there after, and we walked in, 8 guys, and he's like, I wish you were like 8 women. It'd be a lot cooler if you 8 were women. I was like, okay, got you, Donald. And then I think Brian Yandel had on a Ed Hardy t-shirt that was popular about 7 years prior, and the bouncer was giving him shit and stuff. Very, very funny.
A $15K minimum, and you can wear your Ed Hardy shirt in here.
Yeah.
Is that how the conversation went?
I think Witt said, no, I don't even want to.
But take your affliction hat off, please, sir. Please.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, in New York, crazy news breaks this week. All of a sudden, it was reported that Jacob Trouba, for roster management, was going to be sat or wasn't going to be playing because they had a deal in place. They were going to trade him. This all comes kind of to fruition after the summer, where it was reported that they told him, we want to trade you. He had a no trade clause. He blocked it for his family. He ends up going on after to mention after the trade, yeah, I made the decision for my family. I'd 100% do it the next time as well. He's traded to Anaheim for Urho Vekanainen and a 4th round pick from Anaheim. I don't know what you guys thought of this. I don't know what you thought of how it was dealt with, Biz and Keith, but surprising to see him able to be moved and the Rangers not have to retain any salary.
Was there confirmation on whether like the waivers thing was a threat from New Jersey or New York? Excuse me.
He said that. He was threatened. Okay,
so that was kind of used as a threat that never came to fruition, and then they were able to work something out because I would assume with the threat he was finally like, all right, yeah, Anaheim, I'm willing to waive that, and then sayonara. I mean,
sorry, Biz. He did say no to going to Columbus. That was the first deal in place. He said no to that. And then probably the threat came like, buddy, you're going on waivers. And then, okay, I'll go to Anaheim.
Yeah. And what was the term he used? Is kind of like, to be kicked out of MSG. Well,
yeah. To be fired from MSG. Look it up quick. Is a right of
badge
passage?
Of honor. Yeah.
Badge of honor.
Passage, badge of honor, which is kind of true. I guess talking to Brooksy, obviously we already have. I don't know how it played out in the summertime, and the fact that it leaked out and how now partway through the year, like I think that his play could have helped things out. And I think that he did have a couple good first games, but then his play dropped off. And I would imagine that everything that went on this summer, knowing that they want to move on from him, kind of just trickled into his mind and his play. And then, created chaos, a little chaos in the locker room. And it was just kind of inevitable. I think it's a little crazy how you go from a few years of naming him captain to this point. And if you ever had these types of feelings about him or any inkling of these feelings, why you would even bother naming a captain anyway. So I also agree with one thing that you said where it's like, was there ever a situation where he could have maybe took the C off and handed it back where maybe that would have made things less chaotic? But I think it ultimately just came down to his production based on what he's making cap wise. The fact that they want to try to bring in guys who can get the job done, and they didn't think that he was going to help do that. And I don't think it's going to affect anything moving forward for the Rangers in bringing guys in or any of that. But I just think it's odd now that all of a sudden, as all this is going down, now it's like Kreider's name is getting out there. What other names are popping out there as far as trade bait, where it's like, holy fuck, like You think the Trouba stuff created hostility. Now you're hearing a guy like Chris Kreider, who's done everything he's done for the Rangers and even been a pretty good playoff producer throughout his time. It's not like you can't just like point at him and saying, well, we haven't gotten over the hump because of him. And now it's like there's really like it's cutthroat. You know, it's like nobody feels safe. If Kreider's a guy's that name that's coming up, who else could be gone? So I would imagine a lot of hostility in that locker room, even despite calming things down with the Igor signing.
Well, I think even the fact of playing there, and when I was my last year there, I was UFA, and they had offered me a deal, and in the back of my mind, I was like, you take a deal here. I saw it with, you see guys like Callahan got traded. He was the captain. Like they have so much money. They're just willing to move on with guys. There's not like that. They're there to win, and you respect the hell out of them for that. They want one job and one job only, and that's to win. And I love the fact that Drury went out there and made the deal now. That gives them time to kind of make some trades before the trade deadline happens, where they can go out. They can get you're getting $8 million off your cap hit. You can get a legitimate superstar if there's teams willing to trade for it. So I love the fact that they did it and did it now. Obviously, as a ex-player, I feel bad for Troubs, and I know he put everything into the game. He played hard for the organization. You go back to when he threw his helmet, that kind of got them going, got them into the team that they were. They had a great season last year. They just ran into a nail gun with Florida. So it's you can't take away anything that he did for that team. I thought he did a lot of great things, and it's just one of those things. It's a business, and when you're playing for a team like the Rangers, that if you're not winning it every year, and obviously you're not going to win it every year, they're going to look to make changes. They're going to look to try to bring guys in that can help you win. But I think that Drury's setting himself up nicely here to make a big move at some point, to bring somebody in and take them to that next step. And maybe they have a defenseman in the minors, or they have a guy that they think that can kind of do the same type of job that Jacob did. But at the end of the day, I really think it's a good move for them. And I hate to see it for Troubs. Troubs is a great guy. He's got to move across country, and kind of think he's got to go play for Cronin a little bit. But that's not going to be that fun. But I wish him the best, and and I wish the Rangers the best as well. And I think that they're going to do something big.
I've made it clear that I really respected him this summer, saying I got a no trade clause. That's part of my contract. I don't have to go anywhere. That's a player using his leverage. I love that. But I completely see the side of Chris Drury and that threat of saying, listen, you're going on waivers. You're not going to be on this team anymore. And it is very cutthroat. And it kind of reminds me when I was little and I wanted to play in the NHL, I'll never forget my dad saying it's not everything you think it is. I don't remember the exact way he said to me, but it was more like, as a young kid, you don't even think about the business aspect of it. And every single player goes through times where it's like, this isn't necessarily what I thought it would be like. And it's still a dream come true. And you're still the luckiest person in the world to be in the NHL. And I'm not saying any of that isn't the case, but there are just sides to the game as you get into the game at a very, very high level, the highest level, that you don't think about as a young kid dreaming about being in the NHL. And this is one of them. The guy's the captain of an Original Six franchise. Like Keith said, he's done everything he can for this team. And all of a sudden, it's like, we're giving you away for nothing if you don't agree to this trade. And it's a shot to your ego. And it'd be hard for anyone to handle. But on Chris Drury's side, there's no room for worrying about feelings. This is $1 billion industry. It's a company. It's the same way anything else works in the world. We need to make our team better. We need to make our business better. Unfortunately, the reality of it is we cannot be as good as we think we can be with you on the team. It sounds so harsh. That's just the realities of pro sports that you don't think of as a young kid. But now all of a sudden you see the Rangers, and it doesn't really fix all their problems. You look now, they're still going to they need to make other moves. Larry Brooks goes in the interview mentioning they are not even close to being done. So I do feel bad for Trouba. At the same time, you're making $8 million. You're still in the NHL. You're playing in Southern California. It just sucks. Gee, what do you got?
Before you guys move on from Trouba, I was thinking this past weekend, and part of me thinks that the Anaheim Ducks are just going to eat half of Trouba's salary and then flip him to a playoff team for some picks. You guys think there's any chance that happens?
I think that he's like a $3-4 million D-man. And I think that that's perfect for a team who wants to have him as a 5th or 6th, right? The same way I would want Luke Shen on a roster to win a Stanley Cup as a 5th, 6th, or maybe even the guy who's the 6th and then sometimes he's healthy, not in the lineup. But at the cap that he's making now, no, like I said, I'll just go back to, I'm just shocked that like it went from like that to wanting to name him captain to all of a sudden this. It's like, who decided to name him captain, given that was going to make things way more complicated to eventually move on from him, right? And then there's no disagreeing that I think that with moving on from him and having to be cutthroat about it has put them in a better situation, not only as a team, but to then make a trade to improve their roster to go win. Because with the way things were, I would say, they're not a cup contender. Now with Igor as goalie, now the fact they have cap space, and they're probably willing to move on to some of these other problems that we will talk about, where Zibanejad's not necessarily playing that great. Kreider's probably not playing that great, but he's still scoring some fucking goals. And then Keandre Miller. So there's a lot more issues as far as this roster is concerned. And maybe even like outside of Trocheck, like who's your second line center? Like who's your most powerful centerman outside of Trocheck?
They're a team that you look at and Larry goes into it. It's like they're a good team, but are they a Stanley Cup team? I don't think so. Now they can make a bunch of changes. I guess we should go into the fact that they did sign Igor Shesterkin. Amazing news for Rangers fans who I think started to worry a little bit. Like, is this guy going to go to the market? Is this guy going to actually test free agency? Probably be able to get more than what he signed for. But no, they lock him up to 8 times 11.5. I guess the offer originally was 8 times 11 this summer. He ends up getting another, what is that, $4 million?
$500,000
on an 8-year deal. The largest contract ever signed by a goaltender. Now, there's some worries to that, I think, in terms of how much cap he's taking up. My thought right when I saw it, though, was, wow, it's under 12. Like, that to me is a win. It came in under 12. This guy is, if he's not the best goalie in the world, he's top 3. In the playoffs, it seems like he's even better than in the regular season. Without him so far this year, I don't even know if this team's like close to a playoff spot. They currently sit in the second wild card spot. So Rangers fans are excited because you do have your star goaltender locked up, but this is a year now where they do have to make some moves because when his cap hit jumps up, I think it's 5-6 right now, almost doubles or does double, then some for next season. It's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to fit guys in. It's going to be harder to get a roster that could win a Stanley Cup with a goalie making that much money. But Rangers fans can also look at Sergei Bobrovsky and his deal of $10 million. It ended up looking phenomenal last year and the year before in the run to the finals. So I think it's a good signing. I think they had to make this signing, and to have that done, at least it's some positivity around a team that hasn't had much this season.
And we get into it with Brooksy. Like the noise started amplifying with the team not playing well, and just to get everything settled down and end on a positive note with all that Trouba news and quickly move on through the news cycle. It's probably a fucking, like, Drury must be so fired up.
Do you think Igor, because I think even we talked about in the beginning of the year, he was going to get closer to 12, maybe even 13 when the rumors were he turned down like 11 and a half, whatever it was. No one really knew. But you think if the way that he's been playing hasn't been that great, he was kind of like, oh my God, let's just sign this, get this done. And I also think it's going to help him that now the deal's done. He doesn't have to worry about it the rest of the year. He can go and play his game. He's got his bag secured and just go out and be a goalie, then be the goalie that he is, which is a top 2, top 3 goalie in the league. So I think the pressure that's going to come off him of just signing this deal, and along with the whole organization too, it's like, okay, we got our goalie.
Yeah,
they've been lucky having a goalie for the last probably 20 years where you have a guy, you know who it is, who's going to be there. So just having him, I think, just is going to ease it down a little bit, and it's going to let Drew do his magic in the next couple weeks. He
had some other pressure of his wife was due, and they just gave birth, or she gave birth, I think yesterday, to a baby girl. So congrats to him, congrats to his family, and that's just another thing, the contract and the healthy baby. It's like, all right, let's go play some hockey now. So we'll see what happens. I think this leads into the perfect time to bring on Larry Brooks. We go into a lot of this. We go into his past beefs with some players and coaches. So I hope everyone enjoys Sean Avery hopping in as well right now. Larry Brooks. Before we continue, I want to talk to you about an amazing sponsor of ours, and that is Yeti. Yeti has NHL custom drinkware. It's amazing. I was lucky enough to get sent some Oilers Yeti, and I got the big dog, the big monster one. I got the normal medium one, and I got the coffee one, and it keeps it hot. It keeps it cold. It doesn't matter. If you love the Oilers, you can get your Oilers. If you, for some godforsaken reason, love the Leafs like Biz, you can get your Leafs Yeti. All 32 teams, custom drinkware from Yeti. Their unique laser marking customization technique creates a permanent finish on your drinkware. It's not going to rub off in the washer. It's going to stay solid, representing your favorite team for years and years and years. All 32 teams are available. It's a great gift for the hockey fans in your life. Perfect, maybe not even a stocking stuffer because they're too big. They're too strong. That's Yeti. Too big, too strong. But right now, you can customize to your favorite NHL team, and you could shop at yeti.com/NHL. Go to that right now. Yeti.com/NHL. You want your drink hot? Yeti's got you covered. You want your drink to stay cold? Yeti's got you covered. And you want your favorite team in the midst of all of this? Yeti has you covered. Right now, Yeti.com/NHL. We are now pleased to be joined by legendary reporter, Hockey Hall of Fame reporter for the New York Post and the New York Rangers and the Devils and the Islanders and the entire league, Larry Brooks, otherwise known as Brooksy. Thanks so much for joining the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate it. And it's as Biz just mentioned before we start recording, it's an amazing time to have you on. I mean, the Rangers, as Biz calls it, the headline hogs. So much news, a lot of it being reported by yourself. So kind of take us through the last week in what may go down as one of the crazier weeks in New York Rangers history with what's happened there these past 7 days.
Things have been churning basically from the start of the season. They weren't playing well. There was all the Igor news that the night of the night of the opener. So there's been so much outside noise, and it actually started in July, as you guys know, when Jacob Trouba blocked any attempt the Rangers had to move on. And that kind of, that was quiet for a couple of months, but as soon as training camp began, that started to churn too. So there's just been so much noise outside the Rangers buffeting them. And they have been like the number one headline across the league for the last 2 or 3 weeks. There was the Substack memo that Drury sent, alerting teams that they were open for business, that maybe you would like to have Jacob Trouba, maybe you'd like to have Chris Kreider. So it has been more noise around the Rangers than for years, maybe since when they went to their teardown in 2018.
I mean, there's so many different ways we could take this. Is Witt a conspiracy theorist? He said that the Trouba trade then Shesterkin signing had a lot to do with one another.
Oh,
is that true? Or
I made a guess. He's not. He's acting like I said this is a fact. I said, maybe he wanted to sign once Trouba was gone. Biz is nuts.
No, this had started as my information. My best information is that the Rangers reached out to Igor maybe 10 days ago and wanted to restart this. I know that they thought it was very important to try and quiet the noise around him, because as they were playing poorly, as they were sliding, there had been more conjecture. Well, maybe they're not going to be able to sign him. Maybe they're going to trade him now. We don't know what's going on with the Rangers. And I think they wanted to make this commitment to him to also quiet the conjecture, maybe they're not going to be able to keep him now too. And the whole thing was just going to bottom out. So that, I think, was, that came before Trouba.
Kind of like Pettersson last year, Witt, and I guess in Vancouver, because remember, he wasn't playing well. Yeah. Probably from like I wouldn't say the half mark on, maybe a little bit before that. Then before they signed him, they said, holy fuck, it was the main headline in town. So before the year, they offered 8 times 11, and then they came up $500,000 per year and just said, hey, because there was rumors that he didn't want to be he wanted to be maybe the highest paid player in the team, given he's their superstar. And I believe Panarin makes what, 11.6?
11,642. And honestly, that's what I had been reporting, that he wanted to be their highest paid player. He thought he deserved to be their highest paid player. And I kind of agree. I don't think it matters if you're a goaltender. If you're the best player on the team, you should be the highest paid player on the team. There's certainly a case to be made for that. I don't buy the distinction between the goalie and the player. I just don't. I get it because teams have won with, maybe B goalies or C goalies over the last few years, but teams don't get into marginal teams don't get to the Final Four without an elite goaltender. So there was no doubt in my mind that they wanted him, that they knew they needed him, and they wanted to get this done. I was actually shocked that they got this done for less than 12. I thought that was going to be the bottom line.
So that's a win for Drury. That's a win for Drury.
I thought, and they probably traded off a few no move years in exchange for that. So again, he's the best goalie in the league. He's their most important player. He has been since he's gotten there. It's great that they have now taken care of this. And I think also it was a commitment from Shesterkin. I think it was always, well, what was the number going to be for Shesterkin to be happy here? And one of the other things I think that came with this signing over the weekend is that, players are not going to be scared off, committing to the New York Rangers because Jacob Trouba was traded and because Barclay Goodrow was waived. No. No.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think that part of it is people want to play for the New York Rangers. I mean, you go to a game there one time, let alone playing in that building, and there's just some vibe and special meaning to being there. So I agree with you on that. But my question to you about this entire ordeal, it's similar to the Bruins where everything was made so public, and Neely and Sweeney came out and talked about the Swayman negotiations. And I know Chris Drury well. I'm biased. He's a friend of mine, and I have so much respect for him. But all of a sudden, everything was so public. And I'm wondering, in your opinion, did that kind of have to happen? Was that a mistake? To move on from Trouba, do you have to make it that open in the summer? Should they have maybe stripped him of his captaincy, which Trouba said was very difficult to be the captain of the team?
Who named him captain to begin with? If they were willing to take it with him that quick, too.
I'm just wondering your opinion on how public everything was made, and would they go back if they could and try to keep this all in-house?
Well, they didn't want this public.
Yeah,
I didn't get my information.
Brooksy made it public.
No, I knew. But they didn't want this public. They didn't, honestly, I'm not getting into sourcing on anything, obviously, but the information that I printed on July 1st about Jacob Trouba did not come from the New York Rangers. It was no benefit to them to have this out at all. And I understand it really was probably no benefit to Jacob Trouba, but that's the way this business works. And Jacob Trouba understands that. Look, I am sorry that this story had such a profound effect on his life, but it was his decision, and what he said the other day in his press conference after he was traded, he chose his family. That's what I reported, right? And he said, I'm never going to apologize for it. That's fine. And look, I have a world of respect for Jacob Trouba. I think people know that. I think that people only have to go back to the archive and see that I kind of defended him every time he was every time he was a subject of controversy and people were calling him to be suspended. And I kept saying, no. And this is exactly what the Rangers need. They need a menace back there because they've been beaten up for their entire franchise history, except for, the few times when Mess was here and, a couple of other exceptions. So yeah, I like Jacob Trouba. I respect him. He's a good person. It sounds trite, but I had a job to do. He understood that I had a job to do. Should they have stripped him of the captaincy when he blocked them from trading him? I don't know. I guess I was naive a little bit too, because I thought that, okay, he blocked the trade. He's coming in. He'll be the captain of the team. It doesn't have to go into the room, but apparently it did. Apparently he was detached. He knew they wanted to get rid of him. It's maybe he should have relinquished the captaincy. Maybe he should have walked in. Maybe there should have been more.
There's so much coming at him in a short amount of time.
There should have been better communication. Wherever you want to, lay that. Jacob's, representative, Chris Drury, the Rangers, there probably should have been better communication between the two parties. But maybe when Trouba realized early that leading was going to be very difficult for him because of this circumstance, maybe he should have volunteered to give up the seat. I'm not saying that that's what he should have done, but maybe if the Rangers stripped him of his captaincy, I can imagine how that would have been over. So it was a tough situation and exacerbated by the fact that he played poorly and the team played poorly basically from the start of the season. Like Jake had a couple of, his first couple of weeks I thought were okay.
He was good.
Rangers first couple of weeks were okay. And it was interesting because he was playing with Braden Schneider at that point, who was a righty on his left side. And so there was an adjustment to be made, but when Ryan Lindgren came back, they switched the pairs and kind of like everything's gone, downhill from there. They just weren't playing well. He wasn't hitting. He was no force on the ice. I think he was detached as a leader. You can't have a lame duck captain. You just can't. This is now in hindsight, but no team can have a lame duck captain. It just does not work. And it did not work for them. I think there are other issues. I think there are personnel issues. It's not all Jacob Trouba, but this discourse about him kind of dominated the first 7 weeks of the season, and you can't have that.
So what about Kreider now? I feel like now that his name's out there, does he all of a sudden become detached? Like, how does that work? And,
Chris is crazy. I mean, Chris Kreider's been here for, since 2012. He's heard his name in trade rumors a lot, not necessarily for the last 5 years, but like in the 16, 17, 17, 18, 15, he was.
He's also part of a core group that just did what they did last year, and all of a sudden, like it goes south a little bit, and all of a sudden you're like ready to shed yourself of. I would consider Mr. Ranger to a certain degree. Like over the last 10 years, there's been no more consistent Ranger than Chris Kreider. I think he's getting you 30, 40 goals. Like I'm not saying he's a 5-on-5 juggernaut, but I understand the Trouba situation, but now all of a sudden the locker room's like, holy shit, like now they're ready to shed mitts with or get rid of Kreider, where it's like now the instability kind of it's throughout the whole locker room, not just a Jacob Trouba situation.
But don't you think listen, the fact that again, people who think that Drury leaked this in order to send a message, I don't think that makes sense, because it does. It upsets the locker room. And especially this core, which, you talked about all the great things they did. They went to the conference finals. They lost in the conference finals. They went to the conference finals 2 years ago. They lost in the conference finals basically for the same reasons. They're not big enough. They're not physical enough. They can't get to the inside. They can't get to the net when it gets to the Final Four. They're a wonderful team. Fun to watch most of the time during the season, even and during the playoffs too, when they're rolling. But they can be shut down when their power play is shut down. They can be shut down. Their 5-on-5 game in the playoffs is an issue. It has been an issue. So I would say you take a look at the Rangers, you take a look at their contracts, and Chris Kreider probably has the most value of any tradable player on that team.
But he's also your best guy on the inside, which is part of the problems you say they have in playoffs. Like he's literally your best guy in there.
I get it. I get it. But if it's like this core hasn't been good enough, right? I mean, we like them. We respect them. They're one of the better teams in the league. They have been for, now 2 out of the last 3 years. But is that enough? They haven't won. They haven't won since, again, we're looking at 30 years again. So shouldn't, if Chris Kreider can bring back essential ingredients, more physicality, maybe, more size, maybe a defenseman who can clear out the front better than the Rangers do now. Are you not going to make that deal just because he is the senior Ranger? I don't think so. But I also don't think that they're actually looking to move Kreider the way they were looking to move Trouba. I think it's a little different. I think it's saying, hey, he's not untouchable. He's not untouchable, and there just aren't that many players on the Rangers who are real assets when you look at their contracts. Now, does someone want to make an offer for Adam Fox that would blow them out of the water before his no move? I don't know. I mean, is it sacrilege to talk about players? I don't think so. And I also think that somebody out there, and this is how our business works, so good, but somebody out there is circulating a lot of stuff around the Rangers, honestly.
That is a fact, and I think it is weird to see Adam Fox Adam Fox has no goals, which is shocking. But a guy I want to ask you about is Zibanejad, and you go to last year's playoffs, he struggled. He does have 20 points in 26 games, but it's one of those stats don't always tell the whole story. Only has 5 goals. Are you worried about him as a player, being an elite player, or do you think he's almost in a funk that he can get out of? Because I see he's 31. Never been the best skater, so as you get a little older, you lose that half a step. Where are you on his game, and can he kind of get out of what's gone on for a while now, I think, and almost enough to where Rangers fans who loved him, and it was an amazing trade when they brought him over from Ottawa, now we're kind of saying, where is this guy's game at? Because it's been a while since we saw his A game.
I thought actually he had a better playoff than he was given credit for because...
Not against Florida, I don't think.
Well, here's what... Because I think he just had come off a 6-game series against Carolina where he was going up against Jordan Staal, who is as physical, right? As physical a center as there is in the league. Mika is not that. I've always thought that the Rangers have asked Mika to do too much in the playoffs that he's really not capable of doing. That's why I've always thought that they needed a strong, physical, third-line checking center who could take some of that responsibility away from Mika. When teams want to go best on best and there's a physical center matching him, it's hard for him. So I actually thought he had a better playoff than he was given credit for. He actually kind of, suppressed Barkov too. I mean, there was nothing on offense coming from Mika at, 5-on-5 in that series, but there wasn't that much coming from Barkov either. So, but come into this year, I think a lot of the criticism got to him. And I think he's very sensitive, way too sensitive to what other people are saying about him. It gets in his head and it spirals and it spirals and it spirals. He hasn't played well this year at all, honestly. And I think, to the question about where his game is, I think he's going to have to make a commitment. I don't know if you can do it. You guys know, far better than I, whether you can make this commitment in season or you have to wait till the next off season, but he needs to be, he needs to get bigger. I think he needs to, change his off season a bit. Because
it's tough at that age though,
it's hard at that age. So, but yeah, I think it's a combination, him not playing well, and when he doesn't play well, he's his own worst enemy. I think there's been an improvement over the last week, but it's not, it's nothing that's his performance is not acceptable. I mean, the Rangers will not thrive. The Rangers may not make the playoffs if Mika Zibanejad has a season like this. He's got to get out of it. Whether that means he should sit a game and watch, I don't know. But he did have a pretty good game Friday night when he was matched against Crosby. Their line actually with Kreider and Riley Smith was back. They had a really good game matched against Crosby. Of course, after the game, Mike Sullivan said it was the worst game the Penguins had played in a month. So, I don't know how you want to say it, but no, the Rangers need a lot more from Mika Zibanejad, who essentially has become their third line 5-on-5 center.
Brooksy, should Matt Rempe be the next captain of the Rangers?
No, but he should be. He should be there. He should be on their fourth line every night of the season.
You love Rempe. I love him too, and they got a hell of a record with him in their lineup.
That's what I don't get about it. Honestly, if you want to tell me that Matt Rempe's not good enough for this league, or if he played the first 8 or 10 games of the season and was committing terrible penalties, and the Rangers, were 3-7, and no, he didn't even have a chance to lose his job. I don't get it. Honestly, he changed the dynamic last year. He did. He changed the dynamic last year. There was something going on. He may have only gotten 2 shits, but the Rangers were different with him around. And honestly, that's
well, now that Trouba's gone, they need another meathead, so you might as well bring him up. So not the next captain, but you want him in the lineup. On a more serious note, I think another guy probably on the back end who's struggling is Keandre Miller. I don't know is it unfair to say maybe looks a little bit disinterested. He just doesn't seem like himself. If they're willing to move off of Kreider, could you see them potentially moving off a defenseman of his caliber? Because I feel like he's still very raw, but he has all the skill and talent in the world.
I don't think disinterested. I don't know that he plays really with instinct. I mean, you can talk to this. You played in the league forever on D. He didn't start playing D until he was really, older in his career. So I just wonder when things begin to waver for him, whether he has enough experience to fall back on, enough, of his instinct to fall back on. He is a great skater. It's really interesting. He has always been criticized because he doesn't hit. He's 6'5". He doesn't hit. But until Saturday, he actually had the most hits per minute of Ranger defensemen. So I don't know if that's particularly good or bad. I remember,
or the guy keeping track had a couple Pink Whitney nips up in the press box.
So listen, he's coming up on a contract. He's restricted free agent. I'm sure going into this year, he and his people were aiming for a long-term, 7 or 8 year commitment, 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8.
Well, fuck, they're giving him out all to all the rest of the guys in the league.
I don't think I don't think he's earned that over the first 25 games. So there will be what are they going to be offered for him too?
Yeah.
I think they need, like I've said, they need a stay-at-home, big, physical guy who can clear out the crease, who will protect the goaltender, who won't allow, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning from 2 years ago to encroach the crease and bang around, Igor anytime they wanted. So I don't think anyone's untouchable. I don't think Keandre's untouchable. I don't think they're looking to move him because you have to fill those 22 minutes on the left side, but he's not untouchable. Neither is Ryan Lindbergh. How can anyone be untouchable when they haven't won?
Right? Panarin and Shesterkin. The defenseman you just described kind of sounds like Jacob Trouba, but I think that obviously I joked there. Now we got to get to another report, and it made waves today around the GM meetings, and that was your report Friday of the Rangers being interested in Brady Tkachuk. We actually have a resident rumor boy rat producer who's been saying that Brady Tkachuk would end up on a metro area team at one point in the next 2-3 years. That's Mike Grinelli. But you have sources, and all of a sudden now they got the Ottawa owner saying this is soft tampering by the Rangers. Now, you can't give a source by any means, but take us through what you've heard in terms of Brady Tkachuk and maybe his displeasure with Ottawa continuing to struggle.
I thought it was a joke when someone told me there was going to be an investigation. I mean, what? Can't I get a day of peace? Honestly.
Not when you work for the Post.
No, I guess not. But no, I had been told earlier last week that Brady Tkachuk was a target of the Rangers. And then I was told a second time that Brady Tkachuk, and then I was told by a third party that the Rangers' priority was to try and find a way to get Brady Tkachuk. I had heard some talk about, that there was some sensitivity in Ottawa about whether they were going to be able to keep him. And so I wrote that that Jacob Trouba wasn't the end, that the Rangers want to do more, and they were targeting Brady Tkachuk. And all of a sudden, this is
who's telling you that, Dolan? Who's telling you that, Drury or Dolan?
I thought it wasn't it on our text chain?
No,
Yeah, it was Biz.
no. You know
Biz
what? Was
doesn't remember. He's concussed.
No. Hey, not only do I have a surprise for you, the reason we got you on was that original text you sent. You go, "Hey, can we keep this between us?" ? I go, "This conversation?" Yeah. You go, "The moment has passed. Catch you later. Regards to your teammates." And then you ghosted me. I was trying to get a hold of you, and you kept ghosting me. Now, before you answer that, I got a surprise for you. We talked about your current favorite Ranger, Matt Rempe. I probably have your all-time favorite Ranger about to come on right now. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Sean Avery.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh,
He looks better now.
You look phenomenal, Aves.
First of all, I'm Brooksy's second favorite Ranger after Jaromir Jagr. Jaromir Jagr and Larry Brooks are they had a special kin, those two. They did.
I remember there was this one game before the Garden was refurbished, and Yogs didn't like to take. He wouldn't go in the shootout because he thought he was bad. He just wouldn't go. He wouldn't go. He would decline. So I remember an afternoon game. He didn't go. They lost. I think it was to the Devils. And then he wasn't available in the locker room, which at that point was different. Like everybody used to be available pretty much. And so I just started yelling. First he won't go, and now he won't talk. And within 5 seconds, there came Yogs walking out the door. What do you want? What do you want? No, Yogs and I were good, but Sean is actually, and I won't give the other party's name to protect him, but Sean is really one of only two players I've socialized with over the last 30 years. It doesn't happen anymore.
To me, if I'm a New York Ranger, the first person that I'm creating a relationship with is the guy with the pen and paper. Before Twitter, even now, today with Twitter, Brooksy's words in the New York Post carry weight. I mean, it's not tampering what he writes because it's real and it's going to happen at some point, So.
Oh, no, now we're in trouble.
I think that, and by the way, Brooksy's got a promising young future NHLer in his stable. His grandson is a hell of a player, right, Brooksy?
Scotty Brooks, pretty good player.
All right, keep your name out.
Pretty good player.
They just won the Can-Am tournament, or they came runner-up.
Yeah, then won the gold. Yeah. Biz, did you play 14U? Do you remember the fourth? No. It is Wild West.
I didn't make the good teams, Brooksy.
No. 14U now is the first year you can have hitting in the US. And so it is just Wild West. I mean, you have kids who are just 13 and, have not gone through puberty, and they're playing against kids now who are almost maybe 15 and beards and are going to the
smoking cigarettes between periods.
Where's testosterone bouncing off the walls every place you look? It's and he's a finesse, creative player. So but I'll tell you what, he's learned to keep his head up. That's for sure.
What are some of your favorite Sean Avery stories while you were covering him? What was some of the ridiculous shit that he was doing? Like the Martin Brodeur when he was doing that, were you I cannot wait to go talk to this guy in the locker room after this?
Well, I remember after the Brodeur, the face washing incident. I remember calling him the next day, expressing my, I guess, disdain, and he said, "Not you too."
I thought I had you, Brooksy.
But most of the stories, You know what, though? I know, my relationship with John Tortorella is, technicolor. But most of the reason we could never get onto the same page, I mean, we talked dozens of times about we need to settle this down. We need to settle this down. This is ridiculous. Everyone's laughing at us. So let's settle it down. And we did for weeks at a time, but it always came back to Avery. It did. He was the issue. Like Torts would tell me, I can't believe you're allowing this guy to fool you. I can't believe you're allowing this guy to lead you around. And it was like, we could get by almost every other issue that we had. We could never get by Sean Avery.
True sign of a gaslighter, reverse it on to the other person. Because, I'm going to say this about Brooksy. He's seen every single player that has ever played in the NHL over the last 30 years. He's seen their good days, their bad days. You can't fool this man. And if you ask Brooksy right now, I'm sure he's going to say, I don't want to assume, will John Tortorella wear his welcome out in Philadelphia before they win? I don't know. What would your answer be to that, Brooksy?
Well, I thought he was coming close to that at the end of last year. But I also think that he has such a great support system with Keith Jones and Danny Briere. I mean, it's so will he ultimately become the worst enemy that we always know that he has been and be ushered out? Or will there, is there just a tone to him that's changed a little bit? Listen, I think if we were together now, we would both do great. I mean, honestly,
fuck off. I don't think it'd be 1 week before you guys be motherfucking.
Right. I thought he's been a little bit better this year, but I agree with your take towards the end of last year with like the Couturier stuff. I'm like, holy fuck, that was a John Tortorella roller coaster last year from the beginning to the end of the year. But he's reeled it back in. Now, Aves, like, so you and Torts would just go back and forth all the time? Like, were you guys going at it like?
No, I think that what happened was Brooksy was my only ally, like outside of Slats and certainly in the press. And when I played well, or he thought that I could add more to the lineup, he would say that. I didn't have a lot of bad minutes with Torts. I just didn't have a lot of minutes. So it's not, I think it was more that stumbling block, like, Torts just wanted me gone from day one, right? Like, it was like 4 years of just misery. And I think, honestly, the only thing that kept me there were the fans and probably Brooksy to a certain extent. And then myself. Like, I don't know why I didn't just walk in one day and be like, just choke him, right? To get out of there.
Well, Aves, that's true, because like there weren't many Rangers getting their names chanted in the Garden. Like, I remember playing you there and they were chanting Avery. And then Brooksy to be like pumping your tires when you play well. Torts, it's probably just infuriating him even more. But were you there, Aves, when Brooksy had the legendary battle there with Dan Boyle in the locker room?
No, I wasn't. But I can tell you that when Brooksy walks into that locker room, it's just a different feeling than like Arthur Staple or whoever it is or whoever it's been, because pen to paper, the truth's coming out. Like, you can't buy him. You can work him. You can finesse him, give him the old finesse-a-roo biz, but that's just good business. That's being a smart New York Ranger because you're in a big market. But once he starts writing, like, listen, he's been the best for a long time. I tried to look it up. Are you in the Hockey Hall of Fame, Brooksy, or did they just give you some stupid award?
No, well, it's the Elmer Ferguson is the equivalent of being in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's like the most amazing thing is my plaque is in the same room as Rocket Richard. I mean, come on. What are you talking about?
That's dope.
But, honestly, here I go to say, look, here's me. Here's John Beliveau. Here's Mike Bossy. And here's Larry Brooks. But you know what? Dan Boyle and I, we just never hit it off at all. Not from the first day. And the interesting thing about that is when he was in Tampa, I can't count how many times I wrote, "Oh, this would be unbelievable if the Rangers could get Dan Boyle. This would be unbelievable." And then when they actually, when he had his no trade, right? And they told him, "Well, if you don't accept this deal, we're going to put you on waivers." And I wrote about how this was disgraceful, for a team to do that to a player, who had been there. So I was always a Dan Boyle guy. I loved watching him play. Honestly, what a player he was when he was in Tampa and maybe at the start in Dallas. But when he got here, it was just, we didn't like each other at all. And
so what made you not like him? Like the first interview with him, he's kind of giving you attitude and you're like, fuck this guy, one of those?
Yeah, I thought. And he basically told me they didn't like the way I did my job. So I said, oh, okay, that's fine. And then, so we barely talked the first year, and which is okay. There was like one incident, came up in the locker room with a guy who I really liked a lot and the guy who liked me a lot. We just had a blow up for a minute or two, and Dan Boyle came running over across the room. "I told you, Brooksy, I told you. I told him. And so the start of the second year, his training camp, I went over to him and said, "Hey, you want to talk? You want to try and, get this resolved?" And he said to me, he said, "No, I don't." I said, "Okay, fine." So basically I didn't talk to him all year. It's not my fault that he was scratched for the final game of his career when the Rangers dressed 7 defensemen. I didn't make that decision. He was a very disappointing player in New York. He complained all the time, not to me, but to other people. And so I go in on breakup day and he throws this hissy fit that he didn't want me there. I told him, if he had told me before, I didn't really think he had anything worth saying that that I needed to be there.
You know what's funny about that? Like, I think about with a guy like Yogs on a team, nobody would have done that when Yogs is on a team. Like Brooksy, you can't, like Dan Boyle should have never have done that. And somebody should have told him that. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Like making an unnecessary enemy? Like, why make an enemy out of him?
Yeah.
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 Well, yeah, I mean, it's just
on big picture stuff, you need him as an ally. You need Brooksy as an ally because, he turns that switch on and 1 week becomes 2 weeks and it's the third article the third week and it just starts building momentum with the people. You have to be smart in that big market. Brooksy, talk about Jim Dolan because you have a relationship with him. He's the best owner in sports. And you got a lot of inside track on him over the years. So please, because you're being too coy. You got all the shit.
I don't have it. I don't have anything on the owner.
Okay, so Aves is gone now, but do you have one more favorite Avery story before you get to that next thing?
Well, I'm not getting to that next thing.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you then about Dolan quick. It's true though that he's an owner who's in the mix, right? There's some owners that are very hands off. Would you agree he's hands on? There's times that he wants something done and it happens or he's going to make it happen.
I think that's probably fair, but I don't think he's an owner who meddles either.
Okay.
It's not, he's not walking into Chris Drury's office and saying, we need, I want this player. I want this player out. I want this player. See what you can do to try and, trade for this player. I think that might have happened with the Knicks maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I've never been on that side, so I don't know. I know that there was talk that he was involved a lot, but he basically has, certainly when Glenn was here, Sather, he basically just said, run your team, and of course the owner. Like Steve Cohen, right? Steve Cohen of the Mets. He's now being lauded because he's involved, because he wants Juan Soto, because he wined and dined Juan Soto. He told them we're going to get Juan Soto. So owners are always involved at a certain level. I don't think that like this owner has always been willing to spend to the cap. The Rangers do treat their players like royalty, and everyone knows that.
Yep.
So, and he is always there as a resource to give the general manager whatever he wants. Will he say, listen, I think we need to be better. This isn't acceptable. What's going on with the captain? You know, why is this happening? Yeah, I think they have those conversations, but it would be derelict for him not to, right? I mean, he owns the team. So, but there's not, I don't think he's involved at a granular level where he's saying, well, we should look at, you know, Adam Fox isn't having a good year. Well, you know, what can we get? You know, or you know, Ryan Lindgren may not, you know, we may not re-sign him next year. What do you think? I don't think that those conversations are held on a daily basis, but I think as an overview, of course, the owner's involved.
You mentioned treating the players like royalty. Is it true that you gave Henrik Lundqvist his nickname, the King? Like, was it said in an article? And what's the backstory behind that as to why you would even say that?
I have no idea. It was his third game. I have no idea. I could just tell. You could tell there was something different about Hank, and it was Henrik then. It wasn't Hank for a long time after that, really. It was Henrik. But you could tell there was something different. There was something special about him from training camp. So he's playing. I think it was his second game at the Garden. He had a great night. Fans are chanting, you know, Henrik or Lundqvist, I think it was at the time. And I just wrote, he is, you know, and I think he had said something like, it's amazing that people know who I am. And I said, he is King Henrik of Sweden. That's who he is. And then I just started, because I knew there had been a King Henrik. Apparently he was not an official King Henrik, as Henrik would later tell me. So I wrote, like, he's King Henrik. And I just kept writing it. The King, you know, the King.
What did he say when you went in the locker room? Was he like, hey man, pump the brakes on the King?
He didn't say anything to me about it until the summer he showed up, I guess, in training camp wearing a crown thing. And I asked him when I was going to get the royalties. And he started speaking in Swedish. So yeah. I'm still waiting for that, but no, it is very cool. It's really one of the coolest things in my career. I've broken stories, yeah, which is great, but I mean, it is just cool, you know, that he is, his nickname, and he and I are so closely attached. And honestly, I don't know the hours that I, you know, chatted, you know, with Henrik, you know, over the year. He was always there. He was always available to talk. He would always talk. I've really missed him since he left. And everybody who covers the team does, but I certainly do. But yeah, that he never really quite said anything about the nickname to me.
Were there any other, because everyone knows about Torts and then the Dan Boyle incident, were there any other players or coaches that you kind of battled with regularly, like somebody where it's like, all right, we do not see eye to eye, and I'm not letting up on my questions and how I ask them?
Not all that many. There were certain guys who I knew that I had, you know, criticized to such an extent that there would be no productivity in going over talking to them. I didn't necessarily want the drama of a confrontation. There are also guys, and I would say this applies to Glenn Sather, who I battled with all the time. I can't count how the number of times we would wind up actually hanging up on each other, and then the next day it was like it didn't happen. And that's part of the job. That's how I grew up. Honestly, that's the way I grew up when, you know, it was a much smaller industry. I started in 1976, and it was a much smaller industry. And you traveled with teams, and you sat down at the table at the coffee shop with guys. You know, the next morning reading the summaries, and you were friends and you went out with them, all the time. So that was a different era, but that's the era also when you could have an FU with a guy, and then the next morning you'd say, "Hey, you want to,
see you for dinner."
Yeah, I mean that's the way it was, and that's the way it was with Torts for a large part of the time until it just finally ended. But that's the way it was with him too. We'd have this and this, and the next day it would be fine. And it would be with Glenn. A guy who I had epic battles with was Jacques Lemaire. And we always were able to, come back and have civil conversations. So I think there's probably a perception that I have this long list of enemies, or I'm on all these lists. I don't think so. And if so, guys, we're pretty good at hiding it, most of the time. So no, but again, it's confrontation is part of it. That's what I grew up with. Confrontation is part of it.
So that's what I was going to ask you about. Like as a writer doing all this over time, like what is it doing to your nervous system? Are you getting like fucked up for a few days when something pops and there's a lot of conflict and whether it's an argument with Torts, like where are you at on all that?
Oh no, I was always, well now that I'm, a little bit older, it both energizes me and enervates me. It's kind of like, I don't quite need this drama at this point,
but it's a drug,
but it's okay. But it's okay.
It's like a healthier drug. Yeah. That's right. Wild. What would you, okay. So I just wanted to go back to Yager because you guys made a few comments and
I love Yager.
And Abe said that would have never happened with Yogs in the locker room. Like, how closely did you become? And like, I mean, it seems like you guys would like maybe go out for lunch, go for beers.
No. I never socialized with Yogs. Never. But we had an extremely close working relationship because I loved watching him play. I love listening to him. He bared his soul a number of times. He was a great player to cover, and he resurrected his career in New York. Right? I mean, when he was leaving Pittsburgh, his image was at the bottom. He was a coach killer. He wanted out. That was the perception. He came to New York, and he carried that team. It was Hank's rookie season. His first full year in New York was the year after the lockout, and Yager carried that team. That team was supposed to be a lottery team that year. They had missed 7 straight years going into the canceled season. Everyone thought they were going to miss coming out of the canceled season. They were going to be a lottery team, and Yager said in training camp, "Well, we're going to make the playoffs." And then he set a franchise record for goals. He set a franchise record for points, and he carried them. They were in first place almost all year. They fell apart at the end. They lost. And honestly, one of the biggest miscarriages of justice throughout my entire career in the NHL was Yager not winning the Hart that year, losing it to Joe Thornton. I mean, Joe Thornton had been traded from Boston, right? I mean, so one team already gave up on him. And I know that he had a great year in San Jose. I know that Chichu had a great year playing with him on his wing. The numbers were great, but Jaromir Jagr carried a team that was supposed to be a lottery team, put the team on his back, led the league in scoring almost all year until the last week, set franchise records, and there were people who, because of his reputation, because of a lot of things that Mike Milbury had said about him on the air, just wouldn't vote for him. And, it's unfortunate. He won the Lester Pearson that year, the NHLPA Player of the Year that year, and he should have won the Hart, which, to a tangent to this, at that point, there were incentives in contracts that were tied to all-star voting, awards voting, and if Yager had won the Hart that year, his Ranger contract would have been extended by a season. So he never would have gone to Omsk after 07, 08. He still would have been in New York. So, there was a lot to it, but Yogs was a bigger than life personality, a bigger than life player. And, over the last, 30 years of, incarnation of my career, he is, at the top of the guys I enjoyed covering most.
I think we can leave you with this. This has been great. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
It obviously depends on what happens with their game and their season. But right now, are you confident in saying that the Rangers are not done at all making moves?
The Rangers are not done making moves. They're not good enough.
Yep.
I think everyone knows it.
What's your take if you had to make a move, like draw one up, or is not that?
Well, you know what? I can't really say because I don't know what they're being offered. Would I dangle Kreider? I'd want to find out. Like anyone who doesn't have a no move clause, I want to find out what I can get. Because again, I respect this group. They've gone to the conference final twice in the last 3 years. They kind of did that last decade too, with a very, very good team. And I think that team, with Lundqvist, with McDonough, with Callahan, that, and then later with Nash, that was a very, very strong team too. And they broke it up when it became apparent that they weren't going to win. I think this is the time where you have to take a hard look and say, look, this group has been really good for us. Not good enough. I'm putting everyone out there that I can and finding out what I can get back. And I also think the narrative that, well, this isn't the right time for this. You need to wait until March. Yes, there's obviously a lot more activity coming up to the trade deadline, but there are a lot of teams that have been major disappointments. Nashville, take a look at Nashville, right? Buffalo, again. Detroit's not quite there. Ottawa, well, I don't want to say anything, but Ottawa might get sued. No.
You're done, Larry. You're done.
Yeah, I think there are teams that are ready to trade just as much as the Rangers are. So yeah, I'm putting everyone out there. And but my goal is to transform the Rangers into a tougher, meaner, more physical team. Those are the players that I would be looking to obtain.
Larry, last question. It's a yes or no answer, and we thank you so much for your time. Are the Rangers Fugazis? Yes or no?
No.
You heard it here first. Larry Brooks, baby. The Rangers are not Fugazis. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Larry. We appreciate
thanks,
it.
Gentlemen.
And we will talk to you soon. Before we continue, I need to talk to you about Game Time. The easiest, best way to get tickets to anything that you want to go to. Sports, music, does not matter. Game Time is where it's at. And Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. When you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And it's the perfect gift. You know how much we love Game Time. And now with their brand new Game Time Picks feature, they're making it even easier to get to a game. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find which one suits you best. We're already looking at tickets for the Winter Classic. It's going to be an amazing game in Chicago, and there are some awesome Game Time Picks deals for great seats. Just pull up your chosen event and turn on the GT Picks setting at the top of the screen, or browse the best local Game Time Picks deals near you on your Game Time app homepage. What are you waiting for? I'm going to buy those Winter Classic tickets right now with the Game Time Picks. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Chiclets, CHICLETS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you so much. Hockey Hall of Fame reporter Larry Brooks. Keith, Dan Boyle has responded to you, I believe.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I just asked him, I said, what was it that Larry Brooks said about you that you had enough? And he said, nothing in particular. He abused me year one, blamed me for goals that weren't my fault. One, I wasn't even on the ice for. Took up a full page after a 7-0 start to say how finished I was. So I told him to stay the fuck away from me in year 2, which he did physically, but he still abused me in the newspapers.
And keep in mind, folks, like Boyle was done after this. He never played another game in the NHL. So this was his goodbye to the NHL.
Swan song.
His Hall of Fame
fucking a reporter.
He just wants drama and scoops and feeds on negativity. He's a tabloid writer, not a sports reporter.
Oh.
So clearly he hasn't.
That's
Wow.
true hatred. Like,
That
this
one-
guy's been retired for what, 8-9 years? And he's sitting right now in his mansion and he's like, fucking Larry Brooks. Call
Beyond
me finished.
mansion.
Larry Brooks did say, Boyle, I remember him obviously in Tampa, but playing against him when he was in San Jose and I was Anaheim, he was disgusting
Nasty.
running a power play. Unbelievable player with the puck. So good. Remember, he wore the Easton skates like I wore too, so I kind of always appreciated that for my disgusting ankles. Keith, another thing we forgot, or I forgot to mention, in discussing Jacob Trouba going to Anaheim and having to play for Greg Cronin, who the guys cannot stand playing for. They hate him. There's a classic story involving Patty Yandel and Greg Cronin.
Yeah, so anyone who knows my mom, she's a real one. So, she's going to stick up for her baby, or anyone. If something happened to you guys, she'd stick up for you guys more than anyone.
Whip the razor blade out. And
Biz, it's Patty Party and her sister Karen Cocktail. It's just an amazing crew.
So it was at the time I decommitted from UNH and I was on the open market, and he was coaching at Northeastern at the time. So they call me, they bring me over there, they bring me out to dinner, show me everything, have a good night, whatever. Next day, I tell my mom, because my best friend Billy Ryan's at Maine, I go, I'm going to go to Maine. Bill's at Maine. I want to go play with Bill. So she's like, all right, well, you got to call Northeastern and tell them that you're not going to come there, do the right thing. So I'm like, okay, sure.
Sweet.
I call him. He loses his mind on me for about 15 minutes. He's like, you piece of shit.
Good.
You're never going to play anywhere.
Good.
You're an absolute bum. I went to Maine. I know all those coaches. I'm calling them right now. You will not play one single game for that team. There is no way.
You got that personal.
Come
he was
on.
losing
You're like,
his
you
mind.
just offered me a full ride, clown boy.
Yeah. And like paying for dinners and stuff, which they probably, whatever. And then I'm in the kitchen of my parents' house phone. This is before cell phones. And I'm like this on the phone. My mom can hear him screaming. She's like, give me the phone. Give me the phone. I'm like, no, it's fine. She's like, give me the phone. So finally I just hand her the phone and she like kind of walks into like the kitchen or the dining room or something. And all I hear is say, you ever talk to my baby again like that, my husband will be home in 15 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Whatever she said, I didn't really hear the end. Click. And then she walks back. She's like, all right, good job calling them. You're fine. I'm committed to Maine. But yeah, he was a loon. Dude, like threatening he was going to call the coaches at Maine, which he went to Maine. And he was like, "There, you will not play one single game
Come
there,
on,
I promise." Which he was right. I didn't play a game there, so I didn't go there. So
He was right. He gotcha.
but just
might
trying
have
to bully a sick. I think
How
I was
much longer would you have
17
sat
years
there
old.
letting him scream this on the phone to you? Were you like saying anything back, or you didn't say one word back?
I was
the
like
entire-
this. I'm like,
He was petting his dog the whole time.
Were you like,
I didn't care.
Would
like,
you
I'm
say like,
okay,
oh,
dude.
okay, can I go now? Like you nothing. You just let him keep ranting.
Yeah, I didn't give a shit. I'd let him. I'm like, just whatever. You want to feel tough yelling at a 17-year-old kid? Like, okay, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, sure. I won't play there. Yeah, and I remember like when we used to play them in the NHL. I think he was a assistant coach or like eye in the sky for someone. He used to be on the bench during warm-ups, and I'd like look at him and be like, ugh.
That's a fucking wild story. Good thing I never went to college. I didn't have to deal with that.
No,
you
most
couldn't have got
colleges
in
you don't
either.
have to deal with that.
You couldn't have got in either. Don't worry about it. All right.
I could have played at the SEC for the
Could've
Georgia
played
Bulldogs.
Them Georgia Bulldogs.
I could play for that club hockey team, boy.
Other news around the league. The Colorado Avalanche, guys, they have completely transformed their goaltending mid-season. Very tough to do. They announced today that the team has acquired goaltender Mackenzie Blackwood, forward Giovanni Smith, and a 5th-round draft pick in the 2027 NHL draft from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for goaltender Alexander Georgiev, forward Nikolai Kovalenko, a 2025 5th-round pick, and a 2026 2nd-round pick. So big news where now Colorado, they have Scott Wedgwood and they have Mackenzie Blackwood. And I think now it's Wedgwood's played very good since he came over there, but maybe didn't trust necessarily he'd be able to carry them. They bring over Blackwood, who has so many tools. There's times he looks amazing. He's had some great starts recently for San Jose as their season's turned around a little bit. I love this move. I also really respect Mike Greer in San Jose, who acquired the rights to Mackenzie Blackwood for a 6th-round pick and then turns around and deals him for all that in return. So, Biz, I don't know where you stand on that. Do you like the move? Are you more confident now in Colorado's goaltending that's been abysmal this year, where they're at this point in the season?
To say I'd be more confident in it, I mean, it can't get any worse, I guess. Mackenzie Blackwood has done a great job of reviving which was like people thought he was kind of going to be like a next top 10 goaltender. I think that those were the vibes in New Jersey. I think those expectations were also put on his shoulders at a young age, especially for a goaltender, where he also not only kind of battled, figuring out his big body, but he also dealt with a lot of injuries. He was injured a lot, so he never really got like those reps in without getting blown off of his momentum. So the fact that he's been able to go to San Jose, get out of the limelight, be peppered with shots, and have success there, I can understand Colorado taking the risk and thinking maybe he's that goalie that people thought he once was. But to say that he's all of a sudden going to go over there and that this is going to continue and he's going to run with the starting position, I don't know if I can kind of give that stamp of approval. Like, I don't know enough about goaltending. I think that he's had great success this year, and I'm really happy for this kid, especially when you hear like a young prodigy goaltender coming up and dealing with what he had to deal with among playing in a fairly big market. But I think Pasha would be able to tell you even a little bit more about his experience when he's with New Jersey. Now, Keith, what do you know about him?
Not much. I thought Colorado was going to be all in on getting Gibson, but I think having this tandem of the Wood brothers with Wedgwood and Blackwood, I think it's going to be a good. And they got Miles Wood too, so they got all the Woods.
A lot of wood,
lot of wood
up there.
But I think it's a good move because, like most teams, you got to have 2 good goalies nowadays to win, and 2 guys that are also fighting for that next contract and to be that guy, to be that number 1 goalie. So I think it's a great deal by them. And like you said, Whit, teams don't really get to revamp their goaltender position, especially during the season like this. So it's an absolute monster deal that they had to have done because they've got everything else, right? They've got 2 of the best players in the league, one on the back end, one up front. And I think at the end of the day, it's a home run hit by them, and two goaltenders that are hungry to get wins and, that are both willing and able to play minutes too when healthy.
And they both played together on New Jersey, so there's some familiarity, which I think helps. Maybe, I don't know as goalies, but maybe, your partner, if you know him a little bit, it becomes a little bit easier. I know Blackwood was unreal that not lockout, the COVID shortened season. He was playing incredible hockey. Then the season got canceled and revamped in the summer. And yeah, Biz, you mentioned injuries. I think that he could be great. I mean, you look back at Colorado's Cup and how they were able to get by without a true number 1. It's a different team now. We've talked about them being so different ever since Nazem Kadri left. But I still believe in that team. I think that they're going to be right there in the mix come playoff time. You saw last year, everything kind of just fell apart after an amazing first round. So I like the move. I like the move for both teams. Like, I think both teams get a good grade on this trade. Love where San Jose is kind of headed right now. I think I said last episode, I wouldn't have watched them. You couldn't have paid me to watch them. And now because of Celebrini, it's so interesting to see their team. Will Smith's really picked up his game. William Eklund. They got a bunch of really good players there, and it's a good move by Mike Greer. By as I mentioned, what he had to pay for getting
no doubt
Blackwood to now get that in return. That's asset management at its finest right there. So exciting times for Avs fans, I think, to know that they'll have a goaltender that they maybe believe in a little bit more than Georgiev.
I will say this: they'll when they won their last Stanley Cup, Colorado, I think they needed average goaltending. I think with this roster, even when healthy, they're not as deep on defense, and I don't think they're as deep on forward, although they're top 6 when they're humming. I know no Landy, but even this top 6, maybe you could say they're close to his equivalent, but I think that they're going to have to get better than average goaltending from both of these guys, which I think that they're capable of. I agree. They needed to make this move. I like the upside of it. I'm just saying if they don't end up getting goaltending but from guys who haven't really necessarily prove themselves as starters for a long period of time now, I wouldn't be shocked. But a great move nonetheless. That's kind of where I lie on it.
I think that the confidence too that the players have, like when a coach and GM, when they go out and bring in goaltenders like that, and you see that the GM's willing to make these moves to help your team out, and you're not giving away a big piece of your offense, and you're bringing in legitimate goalies. I think the confidence in that group, you're going to see them play even better, knowing that they have, two good goaltenders at any night that they can put out there.
I want to shout out to Nichushkin because, we mentioned before, everyone's rooting for him. Obviously, there were some issues in his life, and it was very public with how he was off the team 2 years in a row in the playoffs and the biggest moments. He's come back. He's dominated. He's got 6 goals in 12 games, exactly what they were missing. And to take that much time off and hopefully get healthier and figure out his life away from the rink, it's incredible to see what he's been able to do coming back in and how much of a difference he makes for that team. He is such a horse. That first round last year was like nothing I've ever seen against Winnipeg. He looked like McDavid. So he hasn't missed a step at all. So it's really good to see him healthy, and hopefully he can stay on the right path and continue to light it up for the Avs. Staying in that division, just a disaster so far this year in Chicago. Disaster for Connor Bedard, disaster for the entire team, and Luke Richardson gets let go. He was fired this week. New coach Anders Sorensen was the coach in Rockford the past few seasons. First Swede head coach behind the bench in the NHL. Both Winter Classic teams have now replaced their coaches this season in St. Louis and Chicago. Richardson was hired before the start of the 2022-2023 season. He posted a 57, 118, and 15 record during his time with the Blackhawks. The team's off to another horrible start with an 8-16 and 2 record in 26 games. Felt really bad for him. Still do. Yeah. Brought in a situation like that, like not set up for success at all. And from what I read, there was an article in The Athletic by Mark Lazarus talking about how positive he stayed around the group, how spoken so highly of around the league. I mean, this guy played over 1,400 games.
Right.
He was a high first-round pick, played forever, tough as nails, stay-at-home defenseman, had been an assistant coach in the NHL for a long time, gets his chance. I mean, there was no chance he was going to win. It's just Kyle Davidson, what he saw this year, and he looked like be getting a little emotional when describing the firing. It was time to make a change. They had beaten Dallas and Florida a little while ago. Then they tied or lost in overtime to Philly. It looked like things were turning around, and then they started getting trounced again.
Yeah, I think he gets the short end of the stick here a little bit. Not the time for this group. I think expectations had grown over last year based on the moves they made in the offseason, but sometimes it takes time for these guys to gel and get acclimated. I mean, how many new guys they got? They got Maroon. I mean, I know Halsey wasn't new this year, but he hasn't had the greatest start. They got Martinez in, they got Bertuzzi. I think McCabe was a guy they brought in too. So a lot of new faces, and Teravainen was another guy. So I think based on those moves and the money they spent to try to get Connor Bedard around more of a winning team and less frustration was the goal. It looks even worse than last year, because at least last year I felt like he was playing better. He was putting the puck in the back of the net, and it's evident that he's going through a little bit of a sophomore slump. We had him on the broadcast, and he said that you gotta sleep in the bed you make yourself, and I think he would be accountable for maybe the way that he started the year, and so I think that everything just kind of came to a head, and the fact that Connor's not having a great year is probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Is like, fuck, there's nothing really going for us right now. At least maybe getting this Swedish coach, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but my understanding, he's also had experience in taking over a team partway through the season. And maybe he's a little bit more offensive minded. Maybe he's going to allow them to be a little bit more creative. Whatever he can get out of them, hopefully will be more than what Luke Richardson, despite like everything you said, heard nothing but great things, shows up with a positive attitude, works his balls off. And, he has to pay the piper, because that's what happens with the head coaches in this league.
And Sorensen was in development too. So maybe he's come up with these kids. He's been on the ice with them, helping them out. And like you said, he's probably more of an offensive minded guy, where maybe it was, playing for a stay-at-home defenseman. His vision of, the way that you play in the NHL isn't the same as maybe it is nowadays. But I think Luke Richardson, I think he'll get a job quick, probably as an assistant somewhere. I think he's done a great job as an assistant. From look at the hand that he was dealt in Chicago. It's not like he came in and was taking over the Tampa Bay Lightning and the team just absolutely went to the shitter. But he's I think he's capable of being a head coach in this league. I think he'll take his time, go back to probably being an assistant for a little bit, and then he'll get another shot in a few years of being a head coach and figure it out. So you hate to see anyone get fired, but I think he'll land on his feet. But and also you hope that this guy comes in, that Sorensen comes in, and I think Biz, you might have told me he coached Pasta and Nylander in Sweden or something.
He's been Nylander's like skill coach for a long time. And Keith, you bring up a great point. I think some of the complaints that I've heard about the season was they were playing like a very defensive style where it's almost like just let him run free.
You gotta let him run if you're getting smoked.
Yeah,
you're getting smoked. He's like let Bedard play free. And the other big complaint from Blackhawks fans I saw was like every game there was 4 different lines. And I think as a forward, you'd know better. But even on D, if you're switching up the pairs, if you're switching up the lines, like no ability to get comfortable and to gel together as a unit. I think you got to have. I just think you put Teravainen with Bedard, like give him a chance. I would not be shocked at all though with a more offensive coach to come in and Bedard really like find another level. Maybe get some standard line mates that he's going to be playing with at least 10 games, 8 to 10 games. Give him a chance. But now maybe the team's able to play a little bit more free. They don't have the roster to be able to shut down other teams. Like at least let them try to win or lose 6-5.
Like if they had the same record right now, but Bedard had 15 goals and 15
I don't
assists,
think he's fired.
He's not fired. Like that's just
Yep.
So
they
you
would
blame
only
it on
care
Bizzy?
about what's that?
You're blaming it on Bedard?
No, I'm saying that it's
I was
your fuck. Here we go. Clip it. Hey, clip it. Post it.
No, I agree with you. I
Blames
agree
Connor
with you.
Bedard for coach's
Yeah,
fire.
yeah. Coach Killer Bedard. No, we're not clipping that either. We're trying to get him on the fucking pod. But that's it. That's all I really got in that Chicago situation. I just hope they become a little bit more exciting to watch because you mentioned it earlier with San Jose making that trade. Like I like watching San Jose games way more than I like watching Chicago games. They're fucking
100%.
boring to watch, man.
They're boring, and hopefully this offensive coach brings in some more excitement, and they start flying around a little bit more. I do think though that you got to keep things in perspective for Hawks fans, and that is like they tanked, they got Bedard last year. It's the second year of a rebuild. I mean, you got realistically 4 more seasons before you're in the playoffs. I know that doesn't sound great, but it's a long time. And it kind of goes into the discussion we had, Biz, of like truly breaking it down and rebuilding. Like it sounds like a great idea. It's a lot tougher to actually make it happen. And you got to hit home runs in the draft, not just with your high first round picks, but some solid second and third round picks. So Chicago, you are in the midst of it right now. You had that amazing 10-year run with 3 cups. You're now in the doldrums, and it's not going to change quick.
Like, tell me a player other than Bedard, and he's not even as good as Hagel right now, but who have they had player-wise who's better than Hagel since they traded him? You're telling me that was worth the picks that you got? Like, I don't know, man. Like, if... you're kind of making the point. Like you want to burn it to the ground and give away these good players. Well, how'd that work for fucking Buffalo? They gave away Sam Reinhart. Look at they gave away Eichel.
Oh, we're talking about Buffalo later. I
know. I'm using examples here. Like burn it to the ground. You might be there for a while.
Chicago fans. A bright side is Frank Nazar right now played at Michigan. He is lighting up the AHL, and that was for Anders Sorensen. So I think you'll maybe see him called up. I think he has 16 points in his last like 8 or 9 games down there. Super skilled player, so maybe he gets his chance to come up. And this is something that I did witness firsthand. And Ed Olchuk, as the coach of the Penguins, I'm not going to say it was a super defensive style, but they were really struggling. They fired him. They brought up Michel Therrien, who then brought a bunch of us up from the minors. Colby Armstrong had a huge year. Rob Scuderi goes on to have an amazing career. I was brought up, a bunch of other guys. And the AHL coach, having been with players, there's some familiarity. I've used that word twice now this podcast. And maybe then they pop off, start playing a little better because it has been ugly. But that speaking of the Winter Classic and the Blackhawks, our first live show guest has been announced. And what a doozy, December 29th, Tim Stapleton. If you talk to a lot of long-time Spittin Chiclets listeners, I think it's in a lot of people's top interview ever. Just a hilarious person, absolute comedian. And now we get him on stage with us. Great storyteller. Tickets still available at barstoolsports.com/events.
Did you know Stapleton at all? Had you ever met him?
Never met him.
Oh, funny bastard, man. You guys will
The
have a
bill
riot
tongue
together.
boy.
What's that?
Didn't he have that bill tongue or something?
Oh, yeah.
Bill tongue.
Boinkies.
Yeah, boy.
That was the only thing you guys had to eat that day when we met you
Yeah,
for the
I wanted him
sandbagger.
dead, actually. I'm like, this fucking... Oh, yeah, you'll be good. We got 3 strips of bill tongue.
23 holes that day. Went to 5 extras.
Moving forward, Biz, we'll start with your team, your country, the 4 nations rosters. They
Yeah.
were picked. They were announced.
Yeah.
Canada. Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli, Seth Jarvis listed as centers, Sam Reinhart, Brad Marchand, Brandon Hagel, Sam Bennett on the left wing, the right wing, Mitch Marner, Nathan McKinnon, Mark Stone, Travis Konechny. What a forward group. What are your thoughts on the team? Anyone didn't make the team you were upset by or wanted to see on?
No,
Yeah.
I would think that everybody would agree. And the biggest surprise up front, probably Jarvis. That's why it was the one question I ended up asking Don Sweeney when we got him on during the broadcast. I said, hey, like, nothing against this guy's game. I love him as a player. I heard nothing but incredible things about him in the locker room as to why he probably for sure made the team. But, you know, some other guys left off. Like, I thought like Scheifele was probably having a better year offensively, but I think it comes down to, and what Don Sweeney said is like, if he's not in the lineup, he's going to be unreal in the locker room, and you need that. You don't need anybody creating bad mojo, right? And he's also a guy who can play on the 4th line. He'll be ecstatic about playing the 4th line. He'll just be getting in on the forecheck and maybe not taking as many risks offensively, and can really bounce up all the way to the top 2 lines if you need him for a short tournament like that. So I think it came down to his ability to play all scenarios, including special teams, and the fact that he's a glue guy and will be fun in the locker room, potentially being the healthy scratch. So I had no problem with it, but I think that just came down to the biggest surprise. And given with maybe somewhere where these other Canadian forwards are at and how much they've lit things up, like I thought maybe Adam Lowry was a possibility as like a depth center.
I think you called for him and Tom Wilson to be on the team.
I wouldn't have minded Tom Wilson either, because you're looking at the other side and you're thinking, who are we? You're not trying to like stack yourself up against the U.S. either, because you have other teams to worry about here. But you look at a team with like Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, you need some guys that are going to be able to handle that if you're going in a one-game match. I like the Tom Wilson, given the way he's played to start the year. He's been a fucking tank out there. He's not intimidated by guys like that. He'll go to the net, and he could also play on a third or fourth line or end up jumping up top. So I thought Konechny really deserved it, and I love what he brings, like as far as his ferociousness. And then the other surprise was Sanheim, but I won't question him because I don't need Joel Farabee barking down my neck online like he did that Jay Fresh kid.
Yes.
So some Jay Fresh kid came out with the fact that I guess analytically maybe he's not the best defender, but he basically, Joel Farabee shut that down. He goes, go watch some fucking games. Like, he can close on you. He's fast. He's long. And overall has been really good, not only last year, but to start the year here. So really excited and happy for him. And it kind of went with the theme of their D. They have those couple high-end skill guys like Morrissey, kind of that second layer. If you know, Makar's not playing the full power play, and then even Theodore, but then you got like the Parenkos, the Pietrangelo. Like, these guys are long, big, will close on you, and they can also play nasty in front of the net. So really happy with the roster. And I still think the question mark's in net, but who knows? Who knows in a small tournament like that? Surprised Logan Thompson didn't maybe make it, but your guy in Montreal, Montembeault, you love this guy.
I'm telling you, I think he's going to play his way into maybe getting a nod in these.
Really?
From what I've heard, I mean, if you're looking at it now, he's the third string, right? Obviously. But everything that I've read or seen, they're going to play the hot hand, whoever's playing good. He had a big shutout the other night when me and Biz were doing the Amazon show. And I don't know, I could just see him going on a nice little run. He's got that like naive confidence about him where he doesn't really care what's going on. He's just like, hey, I'm here. I'm a goalie. He's really good at playing the puck. He's playing in Montreal, probably the hardest place to play, especially as a goalie. And he's doing well with not a great team in front of him. So I think he could be a sneaky guy to play some games. And if he gets that net, you better watch out. He could be your guy, Biz.
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys were trying to steal our pride and joy, Joey Decord from America.
Unbelievable.
And bring him up
Unbelievable by you.
The fact that if
What do you mean?
ask-
We're the 51st state. Donald Trump said it. That's not illegal.
if you asked, I don't know, who's an old, like Phil Esposito or somebody, you're like, hey, in 2024, Canada is going to be asking for a USA goalie. He'd puke on you. He would be absolutely disgusted by even thinking that out loud. And
Aren't
you guys,
both of his parents Canadian? And he maybe was
I think
born
his
he
on
went to
mom
Cushing
is from
Academy. He
Europe.
went to the high school I went to.
Oh,
he's,
yeah, okay.
He's
All right.
as
Well.
American as they get.
I do love the size of their D. Looking at the U.S. D, I think better puck movers overall, but the size of Canada is definitely intimidating. And like they're just looking to just take away time and space from the other teams, and all those guys can move. It's a hell of a team. It is so weird to see 3 goalies on a Canadian roster in best on best, where you're like, I don't know who the starter is. And it's not necessarily a good thing. Like when you looked at Luongo and Brodeur, it's like, all right, well, it's a win-win. This one, it's just kind of odd. And Keith makes the point that there's so much time to go until this tournament happens. Whoever's playing the best in the NHL at the time, I think, starts that first game. But it's going to be
also
amazing.
goes without saying on the back end for Canada, like that the Makar-Taves pairing. I mean, that's the best D pairing in the world right now. I don't think I had to mention them. I want to shift focused over to the American side. The goalies in D for me is where where the States have it. Like I like actually even their D from front to back compared to Canada's. Like they got, I mean, you can offset Makar with Quinn Hughes. He's maybe not that good, but then they got fucking Slavin, best shutdown defenseman in the world, or one of them. McAvoy, he's a fucking giant, can play both ends of the ice. Werenski's having a fucking hell of a year this year. Like he's probably top 3 for Norris right now, for fuck's sakes.
Yep. And I think Brock Faber too is going to make like kind of one of those, if you don't get to watch Minnesota play a lot, like holy shit, this guy's good. He's young. He skates like the wind. He's a truck out there, can just eat minutes. Noah Hannafin was so excited to see him make the team. Unreal human being, great player. He's played great. I think he's kind of listed as the 7th defenseman right now, but if he gets in and he's playing, not a worry at all. The goaltending is just wild though. Like Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman, the depth and the choices that you have there, that is such a different thought looking at the U.S. than Canada, where it's like, hey, it doesn't really matter. As an American, I trust all these guys. Whoever's in net, it's like, we're fine. We're fine. We got 3 studs back there. Up front.
Did you hear about how Werenski got announced or found out he was going to be on the team?
I saw that. You see who was with Billy
cool.
G when it went down?
No.
Chris Kelleher. He's like the assistant general manager of the team. He's working
Kell's
for the
the
Wild, and he's helping out with the team. And they were out to dinner. For people who don't know, they were in town to watch Columbus play. They just had some dinner and drinks after the game, Billy G and Chris Kelleher, and Werenski walked in with his fiance, and Kells actually said to him, like, hey, why don't we tell him now? We don't really get to tell many guys, if any guys, in person that they're going to make the team. And so they had said hello, and then I don't know what exactly.
Werenski's girl was like, hey, we'll buy you dinner if Zach could be on Team USA. It's like, I guess you're buying us dinner because he made it. And then boom. But send over the wine list, ma'am. Thank you.
I think just talking about their D a little bit. I think McAvoy is going to be so good in this tournament because he's not going to be relied on to have to go play offense and be the power play guy and put up points for them. Like he's kind of had to do that with the Bruins the last couple of years, and I think him going in there just going to be like, all right, you're going to play with whatever, Quinn Hughes or Fox, whoever. Him and Fox are both from upstate New York. I could see them play together, but it's like, hey, listen, you can kill people. You're amazing defensively. Just do that for the next couple of days, and it's going to turn his game around completely for the rest of the year for the Bruins.
So you said upstate. It's Long Island. G just corrected you in the chat. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the hatred between the U.S. and Canada when they play. Like just knowing and picturing in my mind already Matthew Tkachuk running into the corner and trying to murder Sam Reinhart or Sam Bennett. It's like, that's just what's so amazing about this tournament is everything's pushed aside. And like, I think there's fans of teams like, no, it wouldn't be like that. Like, yes, it will. Yes, it will. The hatred is real. The pride for your country is real. The thought of getting to see McDavid play with McKinnon and Crosby and the Tkachuks playing with Austin Matthews, it's just so exciting to me. And I don't know if a lot of fans are looking forward to it as much as I am, but I cannot wait. The perfect appetizer to the Olympics next year And yeah, like U.S. up front, I really hope JT Miller's able to come back, and I think they know he'll be back and be playing, or else they wouldn't have named him. But like him and the Tkachuks, and just like how good Eichel's been this season, knowing like Dylan Larkin is your fourth line center, you got Trocheck and Kreider maybe on that line. It's just it's amazing to see the players left off of a United States best on best roster now. Like that's how far the country's come. I think a lot of people were maybe surprised about Tage Thompson, as was I. That's somebody, if he was on the team, I would be very excited as well. Like I do feel bad for him. I think he was the number one snub. Cole Caulfield's had a great year scoring goals. They don't really need that undersized, but it would have been cool for him to be in Montreal representing the United States in at least the early parts of the games. But it's going to be a hell of a tourney. Biz, when you stood up, I mentioned like just seeing Tkachuk just try to run over Reinhart or Bennett, or what Bennett would do to Tkachuk, and just the hatred between
or
teammates
JT Miller
to
Elias Pettersson.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
With that
Vancouver
one.
might have to make a trade after this tourney. Jesus Christ!
What'd you guys make of the fact that I guess they called a bunch of guys who didn't make the teams, and they didn't call Nick Suzuki, I guess, for Team Canada, and I guess they weren't pleased with the fact that he didn't end up going to the Worlds last year, like maybe as like a tryout or But so they were, I don't know if they were poopy pants. Like it seems like a bit of pettiness. Maybe the story's being blown way out of proportion, or he forgot to get called, but it seemed to run a little bit with Montreal Canadiens media.
Well, I do know that leading into these best on best tournaments before, every single person asked was going to the World Championships.
Right.
It was a big thing. Like, hey, if you're not in the playoffs and you're asked, you're going, or you're not going to be coming to the Olympics. Yeah, Sidney Crosby doesn't go. It's a different story.
Right.
But if Suzuki, who I don't know if he was injured, if he decided not to go, that is a mistake. Like this is leading into a year in which there's a best on best team. You have the possibility of making the team. You got to go when asked. And that's just kind of always how it's been. So yeah, you wonder how much of this is truth and not
Right.
truth. But if you're asked prior to one of these tournaments, you're going to play in the Worlds. And that's kind of a no-brainer. At least I always took it that way. What I was interested about was a tweet from Gino Hard enlisting Team Russia. And I will say once again, they better be in the Olympics next year, or even if the U.S. wins, I don't really think it's legit. Russia needs to be part of the Olympics next year. Let's look at this possible roster. Artemi Panarin, Evgeny Malkin, Nikita Kucherov, Kirill Kaprizov, Pavel Buchnevich, Andrei Svechnikov, Alexander Ovechkin, Ivan Barbashev, Valery Nichushkin, Matvey Michkov, Vlad Nemestikov, Karel Marchenko up front. Holy
That's a fucking forward
shit.
roster and a half, bud.
Wow.
And if you're getting a little bit of a chubby thinking of some Russian hockey players, just wait till I tell you the goalies.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, and Bobrovsky?
Are you
Wow.
kidding me?
What the
Are you
fuck
kidding me?
is
Canada's
that?
going to be fun. Canada's
That
going to be
makes
sending
U.S.
over our
goalies look
Prime
like
Minister.
Canada's goalies.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that they're involved in the Turin Olympics in 2026. But what a roster! And even our guy Merles, he listed out a possible if they had decided to maybe go with a Team Europe for this tournament.
Yeah, this was fun.
Pasternak, Draisaitl, Netchis, Timo Meyer, Kopitar, Stutzel, Nikolai Ehlers, Hischier, Protas, by the way, in Washington. Holy
Doesn't he
shit.
lead the league in 5-on-5 points right now, or one of the league leaders? Doesn't
Boys,
play any
this
power
guy-
play?
This guy is a monster. He's dominated this year. I'm trying to find the message I sent to the group chat. So when are we going to talk more about Alexei Protas having 24 points in 27 games despite playing just 1 minute and 33 seconds total ice time on the power play this season? He has more 5-on-5 points than McDavid, Crosby, Kucherov, Draisaitl, Matthew Tkachuk, Nathan McKinnon, David Pasternak, etc., etc. So they have found a wagon of a man in Washington that has come on, and I believe is only 23 years old. So
Carberry.
Carberry,
He's
just
working his
leading-
magic, man. That team is
leading-
just
leading by more than anyone else is close in any other award for the Jack Adams this season. Now, the Jack Adams apparently can mean you're going to be fired within like the next 180 calendar days. So I don't know if coaches even want to be a part of that discussion.
Hey, wasn't Todd McClellan the top, after 15 or 20 games, the top listed guy to win the Jack Adams last year? And then they lost 10 in a row, and then he got snipped. I think Merles might have bet it.
Merles did. He bet it.
Merles mushed the coach out of a job, but yeah, good for them. Oh my.
Yeah.
Hey, so you would want Team Europe. I feel like maybe Slovakia and Czech could put a team together as one, or no? You think it's too thin?
I don't even know
Oh,
if
it's
they
probably.
want
I mean,
to.
they split up as a country. It's kind of.
No, but I'm saying the most likely if you were to want to maybe do 7 different teams, like
Oh
like
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because like
I don't know if
considering
you
you're
got
willing to
enough
do
there.
a Team Europe, are you just going to throw all of Europe together outside of?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
because
what
you need
Merle's had mentioned.
Draisaitl. Like, there's so many good players, even like Zuccarello, like guys like that from countries that aren't going to be in the tournament, right? But you need to see those guys play.
Correct, but I feel like there's enough from Slovakia and Czech together to make a solid team. But if you're going with just 6 strong teams, I think that the way you just said it, Team Europe and Team Russia will be the 2 that you add. And then if you continue this type of 6 nations tournament or something, or you guys think that now the Olympics is cooking back up, that they're not going to do this type of tournament anymore thrown on by the league.
I wouldn't mind seeing a tournament every 2 years.
Yeah,
I
like
would
in
love
between the Olympics, do a World Cup type thing like they're doing.
I
this
would
year,
rather
maybe-
see that every
Than an
like
all-star
4 years
game?
where you basically intertwine the Olympics and then that. So you're getting one of them every 2 years, than see an all-star game that year. Even
I'd
both
legit-
those years.
I'd rather watch the Sacramento Kings play the Milwaukee Bucks than an All-Star game in the NFL. It's
Hey,
some of the worst things.
Protas is. This might be a bad Protas. It says he's from Belarus. Is that the same as Russia?
No, different country.
No,
Different
country. Yeah,
So how would he
stupid.
be on the Russian team?
Stupid. That's 2 different countries.
No. He was listed as a possibility
Team
on
Europe.
the European team,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
which I don't. Is Belarus part of Europe? Maybe Merle's is off there.
Hey,
Dude, this
just
guy's
to let you know,
225.
Keith, notoriously when I get chirped on this podcast for being a moron, then that person who chirps me says a moronic statement. So welcome to the program.
I
It's a
thought
known
he said.
thing.
I thought he said that he was playing for Russia, and it
yeah,
said he was
because you
from
weren't
Belarus.
fucking listening with those Dumbo ears.
Last thing on this tournament, I was surprised to see OEL Oliver Ekman-Larsson not make Sweden. He's been great in Toronto, and apparently he hasn't made teams prior. Maybe there's something there, but I know Sweden's D's strong, but I thought he'd be on that team.
I think maybe if it was a 25-man roster, they would have brought him as that next defenseman. I think that although Erik Karlsson has played a lot better as of late, like Pittsburgh in general has played a lot better hockey. Like they found themselves into a wild card position, or at least the last time I looked. But I think that Oliver's probably played better overall. But it comes down to also your prior history with the country and everything. And it's been 18 months to 2 years since Oliver's truly found his game again. So I think he's just happy to have won a cup and be in a situation that he loves again and from Florida to Toronto. I don't really
I did
think
watch
I had
Pittsburgh, Biz, against the Leafs. Carlson looked good. Jari
looked
was
good.
unreal. They've won 5 of their last 6, so maybe something brewing in Pittsburgh. I mean, we buried them 3 weeks ago.
Well, they deserved it. They were playing like
Yes,
dog
they
shit.
did.
They had no
They did.
life. They did make that trade with Nashville. They brought in the one kid, and he was a bit of a spark plug. Tomasino. We had him on the broadcast, and he was very noticeable. Like, got a lot of shots off. He scored 1 goal. I think they beat Boston 2-1, and he had a good showing. So ever since then, they've seemed to be playing a lot better. I don't really have much else outside of the 4 nations.
No. I think it's time to throw it to a man who represented his country, Bryan McCabe. Awesome guy. Thanks again, Yands, for letting us into your house to interview him. And so I think we throw it over to an all-time guy, Bryan McCabe, right now. Guys, before we go any further, I need to talk to you about Body Armor. If you're watching on YouTube, you see me holding up the bottle of Body Armor, my favorite drink, my favorite water to ever exist. This episode is brought to you by the Body Armor sports drink. Real hydration, real ingredients, packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. Body Armor sports drink has great tasting flavors like strawberry banana and orange mango to go along with their normal water. I don't want to say normal though. It's got electrolytes, it's alkaline water, and this big old wide mouth bottle is easy to drink and it tastes great. I got the 1 liter bottle right here. I think I average about 7 to 8 of these per day. Makes me feel great. I love the taste. I know it sounds crazy, but taste the Body Armor water and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Get yours today at Walmart or a local grocery store near you. I can't say enough great things. Body Armor. It's an absolute honor to be joined right now by the current Director of Player Development, new Stanley Cup champ with the Florida Panthers, and the 7th all-time leading point scorer for Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Bryan McCabe. Caber, what's going on?
Not much, boys. Thanks. This is an honor to be here.
Long time coming.
I see you got the flavor saver still. Do you still have the frosted tips or no?
Oh, I got the reverse mullet now. Hulk Hogan going. Yeah, don't dye your hair, kids, because it never comes back. But I got to have this because the broken jaw, my whole face is like frozen still. So I keep this, and then I got the greasy Movember stash, which
do you have the broken jaw NHL junior?
NHL, like my last year.
Oh,
just shattered my jaw, like. Wired shut, and it never came back. I still got like no feeling.
That was when you were in New York?
Right before I got traded to New York with a broken jaw.
Okay.
Yeah. And had to finish the year with one of those like chin strap things.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
You were going to sit out with Torts as a coach. You come over, he's like, you're playing with that.
Yeah, you got to play through it. We're tough. Block a shot with your face.
That's why he traded for him. Yeah. I saw him break his jaw with that puck. Oh my God. So what's going on now? Like, you enjoying what you're doing? Like getting and staying involved in the game when you're done playing? And the year last year was incredible.
Yeah. I love my job. I love working with the young kids. Very fortunate to kind of step into it. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do when I retired in 2011. I went down to the rink at Christmas time and see the trainers, just say hi to the boys. I hadn't been down since I retired. And I ran into Dale Talon, who had traded me to New York my last year. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Mr. Mom. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, why don't you come on? I'll send you out on some special assignments. We'll see what you like. And I went out with like pro scouts, amateur scouts. And then I went out with Brian Screwlin, who was doing development at the time. And I came back in June. He's like, so what do you think? I'm like, well, I don't want to be a scout. Like,
no,
I'm not traveling 28 days a month. Like, those guys work so hard. I'm like, but I think I could do player development. Like, I can relate to the players. I just finished playing. I think it'd be fun, kind of flexible schedule. And he hired me on the spot, and I've been doing it ever since. So I'm very grateful to him to still be in the game and be doing this. But I love what I do.
Probably smart though to do everything, to see like, all right, because if you were like, I'll do a scout right away, you might have been out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get to like go with the drafted players, say in junior or college, and get on the ice with them at all, or is it only on the ice with like AHL guys?
College is tough. I always found, because I don't know, they always feel like you're going to poach their play. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they're going to pull them after his sophomore year or stuff. So it's about building relationships with those guys. But I have been on the ice with college guys. Junior guys, they always open up the floodgates. Like, hey, we got ice for practice. You want to bring your gear? You can come out with us, run a practice with us and stuff. So I've done a little bit of both with everything. But obviously, when I go to the minors, I'm always on the ice with the guys when I travel to Charlotte and stuff. So it's fun.
You trying to teach him the can opener still?
You want to be out of the league in 2 years? Just take minor after minor. Try this one.
That rule came in. You're like, no.
I know, it was unbelievable when I thought my career was over. Honestly, I had lived by that for years, and then they made that rule, and I was like, I got to reinvent something. So I morphed into the Rob Blake hip check and tried to do that and stuff. But it was fun while it lasted.
My dad was a volunteer fireman. I would go to the fire hall sometimes, and one of his buddies taught me that. Like, I was a defenseman coming up, and he's like, yeah, as soon as a forward comes at you, just make sure you get your stick in between like Bryan McCabe and can open them. You'll never get by you. And I was doing it because it was still legal and minor. I was like, well, that's probably why I got drafted to the O.
Buddy Yandel would teach us in front of the net. Like, if he's waiting for a tip, you're behind him, just that, and immediately the guy's like gloves off. He's going. They didn't call anything.
And I think it was post lockout. They took it out. I was like, no. Like that's why I got sent to the coast.
Start fighting, man.
Yeah, it was funny because I was a forward like my whole life, like till I was like 15, and then they used to have like those all-star select tournaments. Like in the summer, they had this thing called the Vancouver Super Series, and I was on like Team Southern Alberta or something, and we had no defensemen for this tournament. There just wasn't any. So I was like, I'll play D for the weekend, whatever. And I was listed by the Medicine Tigers, and they saw me play D at this tournament. Never played before. Went to their camp. They're like, if you play D this whole season, like as a 15-year-old in Bantam back in Calgary, you'll make our team as a 16-year-old. So I roll into camp in like Calgary when I'm like 15 years old and had like led the league in scoring the year before as a forward. And, they're like, forwards down here, D down here. So I go to the D line. The coach comes out to me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm playing D this year. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I'm playing D. And I played D, and that was it.
Wow. So it was the major junior team who told you to do it and hadn't even talked to the.
Nope, didn't tell anyone. And the coach is like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm playing D this year," and I played D, and I've stayed there ever since.
How was your like backwards skating? Because I feel like a lot of forwards, especially in the NHL, drives me insane how forwards can't skate backwards. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Biz was better backwards than forward.
Faster too.
Yeah.
You saw me play. There wasn't much defense involved. Funny you say that because at the hockey game, the alumni game this weekend, Tony Amonte had to skate backwards.
Oh,
One of the funniest things I've ever seen. He almost went down. He was like on all edges. It was hilarious. But yeah, a lot of forwards like. I remember like Steve Thomas, you know, when coaches used to switch, like, all right, D, you're going to do this drill forward.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hilarious. There were literally guys that couldn't skate backwards.
QB was the worst.
Oh my God. QB?
We'd be on like a power play and you'd look over, you know, if it gets turned over and you think it's going to be a 2-on-2, I'd look at my guy on the right, look to see where the puck carrier is with QB. He'd be on a breakaway. And QB would just be standing there.
No, he's like doing this.
They can't pivot. I don't know why. It's insane to me.
Yeah, work on those C cuts. So I saw you were born in St. Catharines, Ontario, just down the road from me. But as a kid, you moved to Calgary?
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm from Ontario. I was born in St. Catharines. But when I was 6 months old, my dad got transferred. He worked for like GE, General Electric, like electrician stuff. And he got transferred to Calgary. So I grew up in Calgary. Calgary's home. My mom, brother still live there, all my buddies. So that's where I played youth hockey. So
Flame for your squad?
Oh yeah. Growing up as a kid, man, they won the cup in 89. I was like 13, just turning 14. So Lanny, Doug Gilmore, Robs, all these guys I grew up idolizing and then got to play with some of them. It was really cool. Calgary was great place to grow up.
Was your dad like your biggest influence? Like most of the guys we interview, like he got you into the game. He loved the game himself.
100%. My dad coached me all the way till I was probably 12 and then kind of just let me go on my way. But yeah, biggest influence. He was an old goalie, so he used to put the pads on for me and my brother.
Oh, that's actually sick.
Rip it at him in the backyard. But yeah, I had an older brother I could look up to too who played a little.
Demanding as a coach and your dad? Like someone who would almost yell at you more because you were his kid?
No, my dad never I swear, never yelled at me, never got down my throat after a bad game. He just let me be. There was no internal pressure at home at all, unlike today with all these
kind of like
parents
your dad
that think their kid's going to be the next McDavid, like every parent. But my dad was cool as hell, and he kind of just let me go on my way. And my mom was a rock star, and they both worked full time and got us to all our hockey.
We were talking about before you showed up to play in the Western League at that time. You had to have toughness. Were you getting in schoolyard brawls type thing and prepared for that when you got there as a 16-year-old?
No, I wasn't prepared for it, but
you hopped right in though. Always had a lot of pims.
Always. Oh, I can't say I won a lot of fights, but I showed up for all of them. But the Western League was crazy back then, like crazy scary. Was
that the separate warm-ups era?
Oh, it started when I was there because I just saw Dave Manson when I was on the road last week, but Mance and Ken Baumgartner used to steal the nets.
That's what you were saying.
Warm up and no one would go get them. But when my first year junior, I actually told this story the other day. We had a wagon of a team in Medicine Hat. Like Rob Niemeyer was going to be a first round pick. Mike Rathje. We had all these.
Chris Osgood was there too.
Ozzy was there.
Yeah.
Sick team, first in the league. We play Swift Current Broncos in the first round of the playoffs. Warm-ups are still together. First game one in the Hat. We're skating around. Doty Wood. You remember Doty Wood?
No.
He played for San Jose.
I remember the name.
Sounds like a
little native guy.
Nail gun.
Tough as hell. He played for San Jose a bunch of years. And our captain, Clayton Orr, squared off in warm-up. No refs, fought with a circle around him for probably 10 minutes.
Both teams are standing.
Whole team just watched the
UFC
whole
rounds.
thing. Just beat the crap out
Go
of
to your
each
corner,
other.
get the cut man
Coaches
out.
are in the circle. They're like, whoa.
Unbelievable. They fought,
guys still
and then they
warming
both
up?
got suspended for 3 games. And
One
Swift
period.
ended up sweeping us in the first round. And huge upset. We were the best team in the league. And, we lost our captain, we lost our mojo, whatever. But that was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. But fighting was crazy in junior. I remember this.
Were you told, hey, you're going to have to do this? Or did you just know?
No, I just knew for me that I was big and everyone did it. But my first year, guys were I got knocked out. Remember Brendan Witt had a good career.
Oh, yeah.
Lefty.
On the Capitals and.
Yep, Caps, Islanders. So he was in Seattle. And it was my first year and we were in Seattle and I fought him and he absolutely buckled me with a left, down, out. Back then there were no concussions.
No.
So all the guys and even the coaches were don't let him go into a shell. He's got to get back out there. Like next game, you got to fight. You can't get timid. Next game, right back, another fight, get over the hump, kid. Don't be scared of it. And it worked out because I was never afraid. Like I said, I didn't win any, but you just had to do it.
So was it the Dave Manson thing that made them separate the warm-ups at that time? Or you're saying that
I think they had separated and then they said, we can go back to it. But then, because I got traded the next year to Spokane, and I remember specifically separate warm-ups again. So I'm probably thinking because of the Doty Wood thing, they went back to it. It was the worst. If you're a road team in junior, you'd warm up. It'd be 45 minutes to an hour before you went back on the ice.
Fucking ridiculous.
It was crazy.
Pete Vandermeer used to tell me he'd go down and just take all the pucks from the other team and just put them at the red line, stand there and be like, all right, does anyone want to go? Like, what are we doing?
No, I just want a stick handle.
Please, I'm just trying to get the legs going.
So, did they think to maybe put out all the officials during warm-up first? Or
I think they started doing that too after the fact. But that'd probably be a good idea.
The officials were around the circle when Doty Wood was
prison guards.
What did you say?
The prison guards put them up.
Oh, unbelievable.
So in that time, we know you played World Junior, but there's something else on here that you played in the Pacific Cup in Japan.
That was like a U17. Yeah, it was in Japan.
That's sick.
So way back when, I wish I went there when I was older because, picky Western Canadian kid didn't even like sushi back then. Never had a piece of fish in my life. Ate Mickey D's every day in Japan, but it was cool. Like to go over there, experience the culture and stuff. And we had some good players and we won the tournament. It was like one of those little U17 things like they do at Christmas.
Now that I had one in Timmins, Ontario, you got to go to Tokyo.
Yeah.
A little different, I guess. But being the captain of a World Junior gold medal winning team, like that's biggest honor for a Canadian you can give, especially growing up watching them the Boxing Day games.
Oh my God, it was special. Yeah, I got to play twice. The first year it was like 7th and stuff, and we won in Czech. And then the next year it was actually in like Red Deer, Edmonton, Calgary. So I grew up in Calgary and I got to play in the Saddle Dome in front of friends and family.
And it's packed.
Oh, yeah. Like just like that year was the lockout year too. So it was like there was no hockey. And it was the buzz was just unbelievable. And we had an unbelievable team and we won the tournament. Like it's back when it was that 7-game tournament. There was
I was
no
going to ask.
playoffs.
Yeah.
We actually ended up winning the game after game 6. Like Sweden had choked, someone scored late and we had won and we got to like celebrate that night and we had a day off and then we had game 7 against Sweden, but we got to celebrate twice.
Oh, you'd already won the
We'd already won. We got to go out. And then we had another game,
That's
team
awesome.
picture. And then, all right, let's go try to win this one and go 7-0. We waxed them. And then we got to go party again. It was unbelievable, man. We had the cowboy hats, and the long trench coats. And
what other NHLers on that team?
oh my God, everyone. Like we were stacked. So like Tuxie, who I know you guys just spent time with, Jeff O'Neill, Ryan Smith. That was like maybe our 4th line.
Wow.
Jason Allison, Eric Daze, Marty
was
Murray,
sick then.
Todd Harvey, Eddie Joe, Wade Redden, myself.
Oh, fuck.
The goalies were like Jamie Storn, Dan Kluche. Who else was our like? Oh, Jeff Friesen, Sean Donovan. Like honestly, I think like probably 18 of the 23 guys like had like Dennis Peterson, like real NHL.
Yeah, not just
a cup of coffee. We're talking like guys that played like 10, 12 years in the league. Like we had a sick team.
So because we're down here, we just did a sandbagger with Tucker and you're playing against him. He's in Kamloops. He must have been just like playing in Toronto with him. You must have looked back on the battles you had with him.
Oh my God. We went out because I played against him my whole junior career. And we actually, and Kamloops was like the epitome of like the London Knights, like now, like I think they won 3 of 4 when I was in junior. And just had like the best of the best coming through. But he was such a mouthpiece. I hated his guts in junior. Wanted to kill him. They beat us my last year in junior. I got traded to Brandon. We went to the Mem Cup. They were actually hosting and they went through the whole, just killed everyone. But then fast forward like years later, go to Toronto, Tuxie gets traded there. We end up being roommates for like 5 years or 6 years on the road. So me and Tuxie's one of my closest friends and great teammate. guy you hate to play against and is annoying as hell, but you love to have on your team.
Well, he
do anything to win.
He did the sandbagger with Stumpy, and they fought 3 times before he got to Toronto. And he said it was the first guy he saw when he walked in the room in Toronto.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, buddy!" And then, like all of a sudden, it was water under the bridge.
Yeah.
You were known for your shot. So, like growing up, like did somebody help you with your technique? Like, how did you get that big bomb?
I just literally shot pucks every day. I have a shed in the backyard there was a net and a shed. And I had a piece of plywood and I would just shoot. That was all I did. Like I swear to God, just clappers all day long. So I guess that's probably where I got it. It's not something like, oh, I got to work on my shot. I just like to shoot pucks and always had pucks in the backyard.
Not even plexiglass.
No, it was
wood.
what was plexiglass back then? Just a piece of plywood on the ground. I would just rip pucks in the shed, just took a beating. There were holes in it and everything. And, but it was fun. Like I literally just grew up street hockey every day. My brother, friends, like home from school, street hockey or outdoor rink, hockey. Like no joke. Since I was probably 5, all I ever wanted to do was be an NHL player. That was it. It's my only focus in life. I was lucky enough to live it.
I see. So 93 draft, New York Islanders, 40th overall.
Yep.
We like to usually find out if you knew anything going in. Were you like first rounder? Am I going first round? Hoping you would.
I thought I was going to be a first rounder. So the draft for me was like one of those like eye-opening experiences where, all right, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Like my draft year, I got traded my draft year. I kind of let the hype get to me. I was cocky and like, oh, I'm good. And then I had an okay, like I had 60 points, but I think I had 3 goals. Like I wasn't good. I got traded and we still went into the draft thinking like, I was ranked probably like 13th or something. Like, so I was like, oh, I'm going to the first round for sure. And then the picks start going. And like, I was rattled. Like, when I got picked, I was rattled. Like, I thought for sure I was going, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like put my head on straight. Like, okay, you're not as good as you think you are. Like you just dropped till whatever. So
imagine if it was now where it's the first round that night and then you got to go to sleep. Because then it was just right through in the afternoon.
I dealt with that. I thought I was going to be top 3 rounds. So I went to Nashville and I ended up not going on the first day, went 4th round.
Yeah.
So I had to fucking go out with all my buddies.
Yeah, you didn't even have a suit for the second day.
No, I did. My mom told me to pack a second one, but it was like a who shot the couch. And I don't know what. I played a road game that night because I met a girl and Patrick O'Sullivan. Or no, that wasn't Patrick O'Sullivan. Danny Fritchie. And he must have packed my suit. So I had to wear this horrible suit. My hair look was an afro and had to go through that experience. But like you said, it puts a little bit of a chip on your shoulder and,
absolutely.
Train a little bit harder that summer.
It did. Absolutely. It did. It was an eye opener for me. It was the best thing that happened to me. It was just like a kick in the nuts. And I was like, okay, I'm not that good. I got to wake up here.
You said you got traded where most of the time, like elite players it's like a team's loading up to grab you, but was it more like surprising for you? You didn't know, or was Spokane trading for you because they were going to the Memorial Cup?
No, it's like a huge trade back in junior. Like I was young, and like I said, it was my draft year. We had a new coach. It was Dwayne Sutter. He was a hard ass, and I don't know. We just butted heads probably because I was cocky and thought I was better than I was, and I wasn't playing very well. It had me playing forward, and then I didn't know I was getting traded. I got traded. It was like a 4-for-4, like 8 players. Wow. Huge trade. And I ended up going to Spokane, and I had a coach in Spokane that I'll tell you to this day, I would not have made the NHL without this guy.
That's awesome.
Scariest human being in the history of the world. His name was Brian Maxwell. Tough as nails, played in the NHL, had this raspy voice, and he would call guys out. And I've never been so scared, but he taught what made me tick. Like he knew I was an offensive defenseman, but what made everything else come was me just being a prick and playing physical. And if I had to fight, I fought. But that's what made the rest of my game go. And if I didn't play like that, I was terrible. So he would literally come in the locker room and look at me. You're not ready. I can tell you're not ready by the look in your eyes. And I'd be like,
this is before the game started?
Oh yeah. He'd come in the locker room.
That was Terrian too. Same thing.
You're not ready. I can tell. He called it a burr. Like I had to play with a burr up my ass. And he could look in my eyes. And when you had that look, and he could tell when I didn't have that look. And he literally taught me how to prepare to be a pro and what made me successful. And he was awesome. But talk about scary. He kicked a guy off our team for not cutting his hair. He traded for an overager. I think his name was Darren Perkins from Prince Albert. And he had rules, almost Lou. He had to have shorter hair and whatever. And the guy got traded there. He was there a week and he still hadn't cut his hair. And he came in before the game and he goes, "You won't play tonight because you won't cut your hair." And then he goes, the guy like lipped off to him. He said, "Get your stuff. You're off. You're off your team." And then he the guy left and he looked around the room and justified it. He was like, "I felt that was coming anyway." Like, it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. But guys were like,
I was going to find a way to get him
kick
off.
a guy off
Everyone's
the team.
shaving their head.
And then guys just sat up and were like, "Okay, this guy's for real." But it was awesome.
Do you think he helped you make that step? Because you didn't play in the minors coming out of junior. You start right in the big times, which is, especially back then, kind of unheard of, right? It's would you give a lot of credit to that coach? For
that coach, without a doubt in my mind. Like, he left after that year, but he had such a dramatic impact on how to prepare. I didn't know how to prepare back then. I just showed up and played games like everyone else did. And he really gave me the tools to make myself successful and be ready and be more consistent and stuff like that.
Was video a thing then? Like because I had a coach like that, and he would just bring out the laser pointer, stop the video, and just rip into guys. And
Explain yourself.
Yeah, it taught us accountability and prepared me for the pro game as well. But it was just more about yelling and knowing that you were ready.
Yeah, it was more just about literally scaring the life out of children and teaching them how to be ready for games. And then he left, he got fired, and then I actually had I had Mike Babcock in Spokane before he was Babs.
Okay.
Wow.
His second job in the Western League, I want to say. So I had Babs for full year and a half in Spokane. He was hockey wise, he was great for me. I played 30 minutes a game, and he had a lot of confidence in me, and I played a lot and stuff. So it was a good experience too.
Looking at your career here, so drafted 93, then you go back and 84 points, dominate that year.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? After you get drafted, you go back to junior. But then you went back the next year too, when you probably could have played in the AHL, or you're still not.
No, I couldn't play in the A, but I was close. That was another
close to making the
semi-lockout year. I was the last cut, I remember, with the Islanders. Yeah, so it was tough. It was I don't know if I was ready or not ready. I thought I was ready, I think. But looking back, I think it was probably for the best that I went back. And like you said, I got a chance to grow my game and light up junior. But when I got drafted by the Islanders, another guy that had huge impact on me. I went to my first Islander camp, like I said, after I got drafted. I was a little cocky and kind of set my head on straight. And you probably know this guy, Chris Pryor. Used to work. He's been around the league forever. I think he was with Pitt most recently, but when what's his name? Dubas came in, I think he got let go, but he was the player development guy for the Islanders. And I'll never forget, I came in for development camp. We met, we did all the testing. I was 18% body fat. He literally looked at me and goes, "You're a fat pig and you're never going to play." And then I went and they gave me a summer regimen and stuff. And I came back, I worked my ass off. And from that point on, I was never over 12%, 10, 12%, whatever. He gave me those tools. Hey, it's a full-time. I was in the fat club.
No more McDonald's.
On the bike every day after practice. Yeah. Taught me how to eat, nutrition stuff. He was the first guy to really teach me that part of it. Cause I thought I was working out hard, but it was a joke. I wasn't doing half the stuff you need to do to get there.
Because back then I feel like when I came in the league, the older guys were good to us. I feel like when you came in, it was probably a little different. The older guys were were they standoffish towards the younger guys?
There were some, but all you wanted is to be, to fit in. When you get there, you just want someone to be like, "Hey kid, let's go for lunch," or whatever.
It's the best.
I had some great older guys. Like you said before, I got lucky to go right to the NHL. It's I'm not going to say I deserved to be there, but they were going young at the time, kind of rebuilding. So we had a bunch of young guys in New York for the Islanders. But I had some great vets. I remember my first camp, Steve Thomas, you guys just did the Sandbagger with. He's the guy that took me for lunch, and that resonated with me. I always made a point, every camp. I know Yands, you were like this too, just to take the young guys and make them feel part of it. Take them out for lunch, show them the ropes, bring them out. You're having dinner on the road and training camp. Never leave a guy behind because you don't want to be that guy. But when I got to the Islanders, I was a young buck, and it was culture shock. We had Pat Flatley, Derek King, Wendell was there my first year. Remember when Wendell went to the Islanders?
Right.
We had the ugly fisherman jersey and some great guys, Mick Vakota, Richie Pilon. I know you guys had Mick on.
Oh,
too.
he's a treat, man.
These guys, they were like,
we actually just ran into his kid randomly
son,
on this
right in
trip.
Delray.
they were great though, but there were like ways to do things. They were hard on young guys. Like I remember putting like my music on and the CDs. And I remember they just came in one day and just broke all my CDs. Like, you don't touch that stereo again, kid. I was like,
what were you bumping?
I was
big
bumping
music
like Tool
guy.
or Metallica or something.
He's
Snap.
He's a big
Putting the highlights
rock
in your
star
hair.
guy.
Oh yeah.
Named his kids after Stevie Nicks, right? And then the other
my
after
daughter's
Linkin
Stevie
Park.
after Stevie Nicks, and my son is Lincoln after Linkin Park, Linkin. So I'm a big music guy. And
This team is nuts. Your rookie year, 48 guys were on the roster.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, it was kind of,
Look at the size of this team.
I feel like the Islanders were a bit of a shit show during that period of time.
God,
So did you experience that shit show?
it was a gong show. I was there. Well, obviously Milbury was running it at the time. Mike was really good to me. Don't get me wrong. But
They played all 82.
I played all 82. I got a ton of ice time for a young kid. Had a ton of fun. Probably too much fun, but like we were out of the playoffs like by freaking Halloween. Like we started the year like 2-9. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was a gong show though. Like Mike was crazy. And,
Was he doing the GM coaching role then?
oh, everything.
Yeah.
He was running the show and
Sharpening skates.
he literally once, I think this was my first year in the league, we lost a game at home to St. Louis, blew a lead. We came in the room. He said, leave your gear on. We're going back out.
NHL.
But take your jerseys off. You don't deserve to wear them. I shit you not. We go back on the ice at like 10:30 at night after a game. He's bagging us. We have no jerseys on. And Brett Hall is standing beside the glass, like laughing at us. Just like, what is going on?
The last guy.
I vividly remember this. And the vets were like,
Probably had a beer in his hand.
how embarrassed. Like I was a young kid. What am I going to say? But some of these guys have been in the league for like 14
They're
years.
disgusted.
Like, this is
Like I would have loved to see Ziggy
disgrace.
Palfy. I would have loved to see Ziggy during
What
that.
was Wendell Clark saying?
Clarkie didn't last long there because he stood up to Big Mike, and that was the end of that. Clarkie was awesome. But yeah.
So you were actually second in the team in PIMS that year, 156. The first was, I don't know this guy, Brett Severin.
Oh,
Looking at
Sevy.
his Western boy, he had a lot of penalty minutes everywhere he played.
That guy was built like a Greek god, like literally bodybuilder. He could actually live with me for a little bit. He was a great guy, but he was jacked. But we had all these, we had Mick, we had him, we had Pilon, we had a lot of guys that could fight and some young guys that came up. But like anything else back then, like it wasn't just heavyweights. Everyone fought. You just got to kind of, fight a lot for your first few years and then only fight a little bit, just like the Western League. And then it kind of fades away when you grow your game. But
This is commercial flying still.
oh God, commercial flights,
you ever
no
have
team
that-
meals where you had to go eat on your own on the road.
But before
Like
the
find a
game on the road?
Sbarro on the
How
road.
insane is
Like,
that?
Yeah, Olive Garden.
yeah, there was nothing prepared for you at all.
Oh,
Like,
I thought always they had the road
No.
meals.
So you're
Yeah,
taking a taxi from the rink to like Buca de Beppo.
yeah,
to
trying
go
to
grab a
find
fucking-
somewhere to eat. Like you're eating Subway, like before there's nothing.
Oh
like
no.
Oh my.
all you want to do is get to bed,
Were the guys still pulling off the pranks, like the dildo wrapped in tinfoil when you're going through the
God, I still do all the pranks now. Like I'm the worst nightmare for putting like, I don't know, who'd I do it? Pete Mahovlich, the icon. He used to work with us. He is a legend.
Huge man.
Hilarious beauty of a man, but he was working with a team a few years back, and he was leaving after the second day of the draft. All the scouts leave, and we were up in the suite, and I filled his whole backpack with all the silverware and like chopsticks and everything. So he's going through security, and they're pulling all these knives and forks, and he's like, "What the hell is going on?"
Still detained.
Oh my God, it was great.
Oh, that's so good. That's so,
The next season, actually, so Milbury gets fired. Rick Bowness takes over.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he finally retired this season, like, did you enjoy playing for him? Bizzy was on TNT with him, right? Recently?
yeah. Oh yeah. He
Great
seems
guy.
like a player's coach and knows his stuff.
Bones was awesome. Mike stepped down as coach, and I think he was just GM, so he didn't get fired. He brought Bones back in, and Bones was unbelievable. Great guy, great team coach. That was the year, I got named captain that year at 22.
Wow.
And I was terrible. That's the year I got traded. But I was named captain at the start of the year, 22 years old, and like, holy crap.
Had no clue it was coming.
What an honor, though.
No clue. Honored, like completely honored.
Who was the captain before?
Well, that's why. Like, I was 22 and I had all these old guys. Only been in the league for 2 years. And now I'm captain. And now I put all this pressure on myself. Like, I gotta do this. And it backfired. Like, I was bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't blame him for trading me. I would have liked a little more patience. But also in the back of my head, I was like, I just got named captain. I'm going to be a lifer here, And then all of a sudden I'm gone 6 months later, like gone, like out of like nowhere. It was crazy.
Who was the captain prior? Yands just asked that. Like, did they take it off someone? And
No, it was like Pat Flatley was the captain when I got there. And then when he had transitioned out, I don't believe we had one. Okay. And then this was my third year and I had 2 good years, but I was young, and Mike called me in right before the season started. Said, I want you to be the captain. I was like, awesome. Like, that's what an honor. I love it. And then I just got like so caught up in like not performing, just wanted to be that guy, like be better.
Well, it's like when Billy Guerin signed, who was it? Matt Boldy. And he's like, don't change a thing. Like we're signing you for who you are. And then, but what you're saying is so normal. Like I got to be something else. No.
Exactly. And Bones was so good to me that year because it just seemed like I was trying so hard, but it was all backfiring. And I'd always, always end up on the short end of the stick. And he called me in. He was so good with me, trying to help me through the process. And then I got piped and traded. So
you mentioned you were part of a big trade in junior too, and you were part of some big trades in the NHL. That first one, you want to talk about that?
First one was crazy because like I said,
no cell phone, no nothing. And like I said, I just got named captain. I'm 22 and I'm thinking in my head, like I'm here for 10 years.
And then literally like out of nowhere, I just flown all my idiot friends from Calgary down, spend like a week in New York with me. So we had played on like a Thursday night, went out after the game, had some fun. The phone rings the next day and it's Milbury. My buddy answers like house phone. And he's like, it's Mike Milbury. My first thought is, oh shit, someone saw us out. I'm in trouble again. Shouldn't have went out last night. I answer the phone. He's like, hey, we just traded you to Vancouver. You're on a flight tonight. You play tomorrow. And I pretty sure I threw the phone against the wall. Like it was like shock.
Yeah, captain. Yeah.
Shock. Like had no idea it was coming. At that time I lived with Berard and Ficho. Like we were really tight. We'd lived together for a couple of years and I had to like pack and leave. It was like,
and your buddies are there.
It's a mess. My buddies are there. They got to stay in New York and
closer to Calgary.
Yeah, it was closer to Calgary. So I flew in, played one game, hit the Roxy, just got absolutely bundled. And then it was Nagano Olympics break. So then I flew back to back to New York, packed all my stuff, and then went back and made like the move there. But I was a mess.
You had to make the drive?
No, I shipped everything. Or I don't know what.
And you were traded with Bertuzzi, right?
It was me, Bertuzzi, and a 3rd round pick for Trevor Linden.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I saw Mike Keenan this weekend at the Hall of Fame thing, and he was like, bringing up the trade or whatever. He's like, I fleeced him or whatever, his best trade I ever made. Like it was like Bert obviously went on to have like, how many 100-point
superstar there.
Crazy.
Whatever. So, but I was a mess the rest of that year, like in Van. Well, that city too. And,
it can eat you up and spit you out.
Oh, and I was like just depressed and culture shocked, and it almost ate me up and spit me out.
And like Linden was a legend.
He was
an
icon, and then like
that
living up to that, like why these young guys? Who the hell are these guys? Trevor's an icon there, captain, and been there forever. Went to the Cup final, and it was tough shoes to fill. The rest of that year, I was a disaster. But
could you tell then? Bertuzzi was going to be that dominant. Like it was him, Naslin. Who was the Morrison. And but you even knew in Long Island, like holy shit, when Bert
100%. Bert was
his hands.
We got drafted together and we came up. We got traded together. So I was with Bert for like 6 or 7 years, like just coming up. And he was always huge. I think when we went after I got drafted, when I was the fat kid at 18%, he was like 240. As an 18-year-old, just the widest human I've ever seen. But he was the most skilled, softest hands for a big man I'd ever seen. The problem with Bert was like, much like, carrying the load as a captain. When he went to New York, they kept comparing him to Clark Gillies because he's the same build and Clarky's an icon. But Clarky was a killer. Bert was a skilled player, not necessarily a tough guy or fighter. And I think he always felt that pressure So I think the trade for him really let him be who he really was meant to be. And he went on to have an unbelievable career. And that magic that he had with Naslund and Mo there for a bunch of years was special to watch, because that's what he was. He was a highly skilled, huge power forward. He was great.
That season ends and you're saying like mentally you're not really in it. And the next year where you're like, all right, now I'm excited to be here. Like I'm ready to get going. And unfortunately you don't make the playoffs. So now you've played 5 full seasons. You haven't made the playoffs. That's got to be exhausting. But playing wise, were you better that first full season?
Yeah, I was better for sure. But it's wearing when you don't make the playoffs.
And the fan base. And
oh my God, it just being on bad, not even being close to
Good thing Twitter didn't exist then.
Oh my God, it wears it in, playing in Canada and like carrying that load. And then, but I got to go to the World Championships a couple of times, which was cool. Ended up winning over there and stuff and getting to experience that, meet a bunch of different players from other leagues. But yeah, it was like another short stint in Van there. And then I was bounced again. So now you're like questioning
when you're traded that much, that young,
you're
like,
what's wrong with me? Why does no one want me? Like, do I not have what it takes? Absolutely. It weighs in the back of your head. Like I'm on freaking, now it's, what is it? 1, 2, 3 teams in 4 years. And then it ends up being 4 teams in 5 years. And I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Like, I got to figure this out.
Well, the next trade was
the Sedin
one.
That was
right?
a big one. Yeah, I saw Berkey too.
Those
Berkey
are some massive trades.
That one wasn't like, the first one was tough. Like it was because it was shock. But I give Berkey a lot of credit. Like he, honest to God, was open and honest with me, like leading up to that trade. Like my year-end meeting that April, he looked me right in the eye and said, if you make it through this summer, you're going to be here a long time. And I want you to be here a long time, but I'm just giving you a heads up. There's some stuff in the works. Like literally, that's what he said.
Wow.
Straight up.
And then he called me. That's what I respect most about him. Like all you want to hear is the truth.
I heard he was like that with all of his players with trades.
Called me like a month before the draft and say, hey, yeah, we still got some, didn't tell me what it was, but we got some, coals on the fire here and there's some stuff going on. And then he called me the night before the draft and said, I'm going to make this thing happen. So be prepared tomorrow. And then called me from the draft and was like, it's done. You're traded to Chicago.
Did Chicago have the third Van second or Chicago
I want to
second?
say there was a lot of flip-flopping. I think how he explains it, I ended up being for the 4th pick or the 3rd pick because they got him 2-3, was it? So it would have been the 3rd pick. So, he got the Sedins and, that's a franchise changer for that team. Like that's probably one of my career highlights. I got traded for a Hall of Famer and a 1st round pick. Who would ever thought, right? So I wasn't devastated about that one. Obviously he made a great trade and those guys had great careers and they're in a Hall of Fame now and stuff. So it's actually looking back, it's pretty cool that I was traded for such a good player like that.
Did they say they weren't going to play unless it was with each other going up to the draft or?
I don't know if they I don't know if it was like 100%, like I'm not playing without my brother, but I think it was like, we'd love to play together if someone could make it happen.
And the teams are probably they won't be, like the package is them. Like they won't be the same without one another.
Like imagine the amount of work though that Berkey had to put in to pull that. Like how hard that
he's done
to
a lot of crazy ones. He had the Pronger one. Like he had some balls.
Like it's a lot of time and effort had to go into making that action. You had to get a lot of teams to jump through hoops who had other picks and stuff. Like it couldn't have been easy. So yeah, Berkey's awesome. I love that guy.
So when I came into the league like 06, right after the lockout, Chicago was the most depressing atmosphere ever to play. It was crazy. And who tells the funny story?
He could yell at his kids if his kids were fucking around in the crowd across the ice. He'd be, hey, stop being a pain in the ass for your mother. Sit the fuck down.
Was it like that in 2000? Like
terrible. We were terrible. The games still weren't televised. It's so sad because I know they've had their dynasty and their runs. It's my favorite city. I played in. I love Chicago. I love the people. I love the vibe. Like, you go out, you go to a pub, you walk to Wrigley. Just Midwestern people are just so outgoing and friendly. But I regret not being able to be a part of it when it was like good. Because I was only there a year and we were terrible. And
now their games are back not on TV.
Oh my God.
It's like, what is going on there? They had this little 10-year incredible window and it's we'll see what happens there. But
that old barn must have been fun to play. Was it the old barn?
I missed the old barn. So sad. My first year in the league, I missed the Forum. They moved in February and we didn't play Montreal until after. So I didn't get to play in the Forum. And then Chicago, that was the first year of the United Center. So I missed it by a year or two. Because that would have been, I missed the Garden obviously too, but I love those old rinks. Like I loved playing in the Odd in Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
I love the Spectrum. Those were my I love those rinks. Yeah.
Like we couldn't afford Leafs tickets. I'm from Ontario, so we would always go down to the
Absolutely.
Odd.
That's where the real fans went.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Go to Buffalo.
Rowdy. It was so rowdy. We'd go for wings beforehand and then go to the game. It's just like going in the smell of those old barns too.
Because you could smoke cigarettes in there.
Oh yeah.
Legit.
Oh yeah.
Wait, you would go and watch any team or when they played Toronto?
No, like it was easy to get the Buffalo tickets. The Leafs tickets were so expensive. So even at our bank, they would give you free tickets, right? Because they had seasons. So, and I think that at the time they would do tickets at par. So if you bought them in Canadian dough, they'd do it at the exact same price. So yeah, it was cool back in the old days. But so like, what was your time like playing there? Other than that, like I mean,
it was fun. I had some great guys on the team. I got to play with like Proby and Doug Gilmore and some legends of the game. So, but we stunk again. Like we were on bad teams, man. Like we weren't even close to making the playoffs. So that stunk, but great guys and stuff. And just to play in Chicago, I actually ended up like staying because I didn't have kids or anything. We kept our place in Chicago when I got traded to Toronto. I lived there for 5 summers. That was like my summer off season home. I loved it there and still got a lot of good friends there, but the hockey wasn't very good.
And then did you sign as a free agent in Toronto? How did you end up there?
No, I got traded again.
Oh my
just
God,
a suitcase.
Just absolute suitcase.
Named captain and then
for 5 years. That one was, I don't know, we were terrible. So they fired everyone. They ended up bringing, I don't know if you guys remember that old GM, Mike Smith. He was like a werewolf.
He was drafted. He was always
he loved the
drafting
Russians. So that's what it was.
I had him in Phoenix.
He came in, he just started bringing in the Russian influence, and I got traded to Toronto for Alexander Karpovtsev. And then went to Toronto, and then that's when I finally got to stay somewhere for like.
We were talking about Josh Morrissey recently, how he had like all these seasons of like 30 points, 25 points, and he just popped off. And it's very similar to your career. Now, granted, he was in the same spot, but something clicked. And I'm wondering if after that many trades and like, fuck, dude, what's going on here? Did that like piss you off enough? Or was it more playing time and playing with better players in Toronto that you just took off?
Yeah, it's called Thomas Caberlet.
Oh, yeah.
He was God.
That's no coincidence. My career took off after I went to Toronto and I started playing with him.
Passed perfect.
Yeah. But, and Pat Quinn and Ricky Lee and like those teams, Mats and all those guys. But when I went there, yeah, it was like I said before, like, what the hell is going on? Like I had no consistency. No, I've been moved now 4 times. I'm on my 5th team. It's like painful. But when I went there, it was like me and Cabby got put together and it was just like it clicked. And he was such a pleasure to play with for those 8 years. And I just rode his coattails to the cleaners. But it was also opportunity. And Pat really believed in me. And it was the first time I really got an opportunity to like run a power play at the NHL level. And then like obviously playing with Mats and Tucks in front and Cabby, it honestly, we were like the yin and yang. Like I was physical and could shoot and he could skate and move pucks. And he was so underrated and he made my job so easy. And we just, we had the mojo going for a bunch of years. It was a lot of fun.
Do you think he used the shortest stick?
Oh yeah.
God, it was
What was the
It was
flex
a
on
mini
that
stick.
thing?
What's that?
What was the flex on it? It looked like it was $1 million.
Oh, mine?
No, his.
No.
His? Oh, yeah, it was high. Yeah, he was not a big slapper guy, but he could dish and look guys off and patience and poise and
Almost like an Adam Fox, right? Like he wasn't necessarily like the fastest guy, but always had his head up and just like tight hands and always made the right play.
Oh, he was dead.
He was, my billets were huge Maple Leafs fans when I went there in junior, 04, 05. And I used to watch all their games and I was like, I wanted to be Caber. I'd go out there. I couldn't hit the one-timer that well. I'm like, I'll try to be like this guy instead. So he was unbelievable.
We just had Mats on recently because he dropped that book and I was talking to Ty beforehand, just kind of getting prepped. And he said just like the locker room culture, like Mats just was such a good leader and made it so fun. Was that like kind of your best experience of going into a locker room where everyone really felt like a really tight group?
100%. Mats was unbelievable. Best captain I ever had. He was quiet, but he was a presence, led by example, always made sure that everyone on the team felt like they were like a big piece of the puzzle. Something I learned from him, like whether you're the 4th line guy or a call up, you were a part of it. And he was an unbelievable leader, always like mandate, like I know Yands was one of those guys, and I learned this from Matt's, like, throw the team Christmas party every year. Like, this is what a leader does, bring the boys together. And just the way he like practiced, that's when I learned how to practice. Like, he practiced hard, like, and demanded it of other people. And it made me a better player. And then coming to the rink, and then we had like Robs and Joe Newendike and these guys. Robs was sick. Robs was unbelievable for me too. Like, even then I kept evolving, and I was in shape and stuff. But when Robs came to Toronto, he was training on a different level. That I had this Olympic lifting. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
and I literally followed this guy around to the point that for the Christmas party, the gag gifts, they got me a shirt that said, "Be like Robs." Remember those shirts? Be like Mike.
Yeah.
Because I like literally sidled up to him for a whole summer and just
Change your career, kind of.
No, literally.
Smart.
It's no coincidence that after that point in time, I had like, 17 goals, 16 goals, whatever. Like, it took off. Like, and I do attribute that a lot to like Matt's and Rob's and the strength coach there, Matty Nickel, who trained me my whole last 10 years.
Best.
He's the best. I love that guy to death. I would not have like had the success and consistency without those guys in my life. Like, they changed just the way I prepared, and like, just, it was an everyday job now. And from then on in, I would, when you're young, you need someone to push you. But when I met those guys and spent time with them, it was like that. When I went home in the summer, I didn't need a training partner. Like, I was dialed in. Maddie had my program. I knew what I needed to do, and I did it. I didn't need someone down my throat to do it. Whereas when I was younger, it's like, I need someone telling me I gotta do this many runs or this many. But I'd grown up and like finally found that happy mixture of having fun and being professional about it. And it was great.
I was just saying, talking to Mats and then also hanging out with Stumpy and Tux. The Pat Quinn stories are incredible about him smoking the stogies and having his scotch after games. Like, you must have a number of funny ones.
He was the best, man. He was I know Mats had touched on this. I watched your guys' interview with him, and he was just such a presence. He was just a huge, huge human being. When he talked, he was so well spoken though. Like, he could grab the room, but he was funny as hell. Like, he was old school, like praxis, like old drills, and go to the board for every.
Oh my God.
Every drill, like, hey, we're gonna do this drill, the horseshoe. We're gonna have half the guys. We'd have to,
You don't know it.
whiteboard it, and he'd always like erase it with his hand. And then he'd somehow end up getting it on his face. It was the best. But Pat and he, like, I know Matt's said this too. He was such a player's coach, and he would never bury you in the media, but he would bury you in a subtle way, like in meetings when they had the video. It was the funniest thing. He'd never call you out by your name, but you'd be on the video and he'd have a clip and he goes, "We got a guy here who thinks he's a Zamboni." And it's me lying in the middle of the ice, like slide blocking and just swimming. And he was calling you out, but he would never say it was you. And everyone would be laughing because look at this guy. He's got poopy pants. He won't go back and get the puck. And you're like, you're looking at his cabbie going back. Someone's bearing it on.
I love a good roast video session.
Yeah.
Would he have one-on-ones? Like, carve you one-on-one in his office?
No, he was like old school. Like,
Well,
you could always talk to him, but he was never like down your throat. He was like, let the boys police themselves. It's your locker room. And we had a great locker room, obviously. And we just like, we talk about this. We still laugh about it. We had like top 5 power play in the league for many years. We had some sick players though, like McGillney, Mats, Tux, Cabby, whoever, you name them all. We never, like, Ricky Lee ran the power play and he'd give us like a VHS tape. He'd be like, "You guys watch it if you want." And he'd like throw it to us.
Oh, you were doing it yourself.
We were just doing it on our own, man. Like, just,
Wow.
we work on it in practice and stuff, but we were not watching video, and it was just instincts, man. And, Matt's
would you get the full 2 minutes?
Oh, I'm pretty close to it. Yeah, pretty close to it. And then, we would police ourselves. Like, Matt's would yell at whoever. Cabby, shoot the puck once in a while. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Caber's not open 24/7. And we'd all roast
like,
each other.
Yes, 7-Eleven over
But
here.
we had some sick guys on that power play, and I just reaped the benefits. of
The
those.
coolest thing for you is you're in the playoffs.
Oh, buddy.
Finally, you get in, and that started this Ottawa-Toronto thing.
Yeah.
So they finished second in the East. You guys are 7th, and you sweep them.
Yeah.
And it must have been just so exciting for the city and like that rivalry form where the next year you got them, you beat them in 7. But that first one, do you remember like being surprised being up 2-0 or 3-0? Like, because they had a real good team.
Yeah, like you said, I was chomping at the bit. I'd never played in the playoffs. And we just kind of stumbled in at the end. Like I wasn't sure we were going to make it. I got traded there and we ended up making it. And then we get Ottawa, they had unbelievable teams and obviously the Ontario thing and stuff. And it was so electric, just the feeling. And then when you win, and we won that series, like you win one series in Toronto, it's like you won the cup. Like their city is shutting down, parades up and down Yonge Street. It was so much. I scoring my first playoff goal. I remember that like it was yesterday. Matt's hitting me back door, and the energy and the fun and just how I know you guys played in playoffs, like the difference in the level of play and the intensity.
They tell you like, yeah, I got it.
Like during a regular season game, I would lose like, I don't know, 4 pounds or something. During a playoff game, I'd lose like 10 plus pounds. Like the amount of like the mental strain and the physical toll on your body. It was so much fun to be around. But that was the Ottawa series where they were awesome.
I played in a few and like obviously not many minutes. It felt like the game was being played in fast forward. I remember the one year I got in against Detroit. I'm like, I don't think I belong out here. I'll go back to the Ox court.
They had McCarty though.
Hey, talking about Tux told us a story that was pretty funny because he got rocked by Alfredson and he separated his shoulder pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say he missed the rest of that series. Like to the point where the bone was sticking out of his shoulder and they had to like sew it back. And you guys played them like the first game of the season that next year, and Tux was just waiting to line Alfredson up, and he ended up getting him, and he took a 2-minute minor, and they scored on that, and it was late in the third period. So after the game, Pat Quinn was having a stogie and a scotch, and he called them in.
The way he told the story, too, is like
told unbelievable. And he's like, yeah, grab a glass, pour yourself a scotch, and he's like, I waited 12 fucking years to get a guy back when he hit me dirty. You couldn't wait one fucking game. Take that scotch and get the fuck out of my office.
Yeah, he said he walked back into the room with a scotch.
Got the scotch though. That's nice.
Yeah, he got the scotch. But the best thing too, he was saying that Pat Quinn would inhale his cigars and he'd be like, and he'd constantly be coughing.
Oh my God. The funniest, I don't know if Tux told this. Did he tell the Nathan Perrott story about that? This is my funniest. We still laugh about it to this day. I don't know if you remember this guy, Nathan Perrott. He was
tough
a
guy.
Fighter, yeah. Could skate like the wind, like fast. He was jacked too.
He'd play a ton now.
Oh my God, could he fly? But just, not the sharpest tool in the shed, whatever. Great guy, worked his ass up. But so he's coming up the ranks in Toronto, and we're playing a game in Detroit, and we're all on the bench. And Nathan Perrott comes up the wing and like shoots it in the stands. We're talking like 40 rows up, and he comes back by the bench and he's like looking at the blade of a stick to see if it's broken. And Pat, under his breath, as only Pat could do, he goes, "It's not the stick with you, son." Me and Tuxie were dying. I swear to you, we were in tears on the bench. It was the funniest thing. He had these subtle, sarcastic comments, and oh my God, I just about died.
That's so
one of my favorite Pat Quinns. I've told it before. Is he came into the room, those suits he had, the 3-piece.
You guys had played the night before too.
Yeah, he's like, "We need to be going tonight, boys." And we're like, "We don't play tonight." He was just a day early. And now he was older.
Yeah, you had him. Yeah, I remember he went Edmonton, right?
Edmonton, yeah. But that year in 01, Smoke Ottawa, you losing 7 to Jersey. They ended up dusting Pittsburgh and losing in Game 7 of the Cup final. So that team you had you had enough to maybe go on a big run here. Jersey in Game 7 in Jersey.
It was a tough one. We had them. I don't know if you remember. We had them right where we wanted them. We were playing great. We had a good team. And that's when Ty took Niedermayer's head off. Do you remember that?
Yes.
They hit?
No, the puck was nowhere near.
Yeah. And it kind of, obviously Ty got suspended, and then they kind of rallied around. It was like a big moment. Stevens went.
Looking at your bench.
Went nuts. And it was kind of a morale thing for them. They're like, screw these guys. And we pissed it away and ended up losing.
Were you up 3-2?
We were up 3-2.
Fuck.
And that happened. And then we lost back-to-backers. They came back and beat us. But then the next year, I think we went to conference finals, right?
Yeah.
Carolina.
You got Ottawa in the second round, but that one went to 7 games.
That year, We played the New York Islanders in round 1.
Oh,
that was the biggest
Steve Webb
bloodbath series. I think if you ask any guys that we played in that group of guys, it was a bloodbath. The Steve Webb
he became a household name,
killing people.
Everybody.
Batesy had the penalty shot.
That's when I tripped Batesy on the penalty shot, and he scored. So I was like, it was a nightmare. That game, that won 7. So that was game 4 when I tripped Batesy. It was all over. You know, he scores, they win. I'm like crying myself to sleep, like we're gonna cost us the series. And then we go back to Toronto. I end up scoring 2 the next game. So all right, I'm off the hook. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I bounced back. I'm not in one.
I can go to the grocery store.
No one's gonna mention it again.
Yeah, no Toronto Sun appearance tomorrow morning.
But we went 7 and we were beaten. Like we lost. Matt's broke his arm. Tux was out. Like it was just never like, that's the one where Eric Cairns and Course pulled his hair, got suspended, line brawl. It was honestly a bloodbath. Like it's when Tux took Pekka's knee out. Yep. It was a crime scene.
Wow.
Like,
and you never saw the Nassau Coliseum like that when you were playing.
Oh my God, was that place?
It was nuts.
Buzzing, loudest.
What were they chanting for Webbs? Didn't he have a name? Like a
Webby,
Webby, and he was just killing.
Oh, it was something. It was something different.
He buckled everyone every game. He killed Mats. He killed Jonas Hoagland. I can't believe he's still alive. Like put him through the end boards. Roberts, I think, like knocked out Kenny Johnson like from behind, like horrible hit. No call, like just like there were no rules, and we ended up beating them. But we were so beat up.
Yeah,
going in that next series, like Matt's tried to play through a broken wrist, like no joke. I've never seen it like it. Like got shot up, like not only broken but like displaced, fracture. And he tried to actually play. Like he got shot up for warm up, and he couldn't hold his stick, but he tried. Like I was like, this guy's a maniac. But we ended up winning. Then we played Ottawa and we were beaten down, but we ended up beating them again. Like their kryptonite. Like we beat them in 7, just grinded out like
Lalim. Was it Lalim who had a tough series?
That was the first year. That was when we swept them. Yeah, he let the softie in, I think. Or no, that was game 7. No, that was game 7. No, that was that year.
Yeah, it was the next year.
That was, we beat him because we beat him 3 times in my tenure. But the one, I think that was game 7. He let it like a squeaker, Newey, like muffin down the wing. And we ended up beating them. But then we got Carolina and we were so tired and beaten up and missing our captain. And we ended up going 6. And I think we lost 3 of the 6 in overtime. Like it was just tough breaks. We didn't get there. We had a good team. Cujo was sick, like in that run.
Oh, that's when Cujo was just standing on.
But those weren't even like, I don't even think those were our best teams. Like after, like when we got Eddie, and then we had the one year when we lost, when JR scored that OT crippler.
Right.
That year, our team, that's when we got Leachy. We got Leachy at the dead.
And they booed him out of town, didn't they?
What's that?
Didn't they boo him out of town?
No, they didn't boo him out of town. He only played like a short time.
Oh, yeah.
Who went to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. But we got Leachy. We had just a squad, McGillney, like all these guys, Belfort, Roberts, Neuendijk, Owen Nolan, Greener, Travis Green. Like we had depth, we had studs, we had everything. And we lost in game 6 there, JR, when he sniped it short side there.
And the dancing Selly running up the ice.
But then the lockout happened and all those guys would have been back for a full year together. Like that
they were all
whole
signed.
Group, everyone was signed.
Oh.
And that's like my biggest regret is that we lost that season, because I truly think that would have been like our best team. We would have been together the whole year, and we cancel the season. All those players' contracts expire. Everyone left. And that's when like they didn't make the playoffs for like, it was like 13 years. They hadn't won a playoff series until recently.
Yeah.
That's when I went to go the other way.
So that one season, that could have been like, just looking back, like that was a special team coming back.
That team that year is the team that I really think was our best team.
Were you one of the guys that had signed a big ticket and had that 24% rollback?
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
What a absolute.
And I was the PA rep too. So
people are motherfucking.
Put that on top of playing in Toronto, being like the face of the team. And saying we're never gonna take a cap, and then waking up one morning, no one tells you.
Cap.
Phone's blowing off the hook. Yeah, I had signed a 2-year deal and I lost almost all of it, plus the 24%. And then had to deal with the Toronto media on top of that and being like, what? I thought you said you're not going to take a cap. And I was like, oh, okay.
Looking back, we were saying the other night at dinner that their first offer was probably incredible compared to what it settled to. But at the time, all these guys, and you're being led by, it was Bob, like, no cap, we're never getting a cap.
Yeah, that was like the mandate. You have to tell it, we're never taking it. That was like the quote. So no, we're never taking a cap.
Were guys saying like, no, but we're going to have to? Like these billionaires are going to win? Or was it not even discussed within the group?
I think the small group it was discussed in. Like, and then just to wake up one day and just like we caved, like it was like we missed a whole, if we were going to cave, why didn't we cave at Christmas and at least save the year? Right. If we're going to give them everything anyway.
Get some money out of
something and get to play. Like what a waste. Missed a whole year.
And you're prime of your career.
Exactly. Prime of your career, great team. And, never mind the money. I don't even care about that. It was just like that window that we had with that team was gone now. And then everyone left and then it was never the same.
Why did everyone leave? Because of the cap?
All their contracts expired.
But no one wanted to stay.
And free agency came along and they all, I think Eddie, Newey, and Robs came to Florida. And then, we had to rebuild and, we had some good teams still. But we missed the playoffs, I think, by like 1 point, 2 points the next couple of years.
This team was good, too. Like, dude, you had 68 points that year after in 73 games.
Wow.
Matt Sundin, 78 points. But like Jason Allison, that's when Steen was young. Fuck, was that a tough trade looking back? But
Kyle Wellwood.
That's what Skillsy. Yeah. Was Skillsy on that team? Skillsy came over, I think. Was that the year?
You got to go down on the hockey DB to possibly
you got
Skillsy.
2 assists.
I don't see him.
He might have came the next year.
The next year, actually.
Ken Clark couldn't reach the net in the air from the blue.
But no, we had some good teams. Yeah, that year coming out of the lockout, that was like, I think my career year. I think that year.
That's a big season.
It was funny though, because, all these guys were playing during the lockout and I wasn't. And it's so funny when you're, this is the lesson I learned when your heart or your head's not in something mentally. So I didn't go and play because I just didn't want to. And then I felt like all these guys were playing, and what if we settle and we start playing January 1? I'm going to be behind the 8 ball. So I'll go over and play. So I went to Sweden with Brian Boucher, beauty.
Oh, yeah.
He's
goalie?
Great, the goalie.
Oh, yeah.
And Anders Eriksson, I went to Jönköping. HV71 was the team. And literally didn't see the sun for like the 4 weeks I was there, like 2 days. You go to the rink, sun's not up. You come out of the rink, sun's gone. Just miserable. We lost every game. So I go over there. I suck. I'm terrible on the big ice.
They're on the imports too.
I'm -10. We're 0-10. The coach comes up to me in his Swedish accent. He's like, oh, we're going to switch the lineup tonight. And he's like, you're not going to play, but we want you to dress. You know how they dress, like the extra key on the end of the bench. And I was like, buddy, if you think I'm putting my equipment on and cheering on your team, you're sadly mistaken. Packed my shit. I was on a plane that day and I came back, but I would have scratched me too. I was horrible because I didn't care. And I didn't want to be there. And the big ice did not suit my skating abilities. So, but funny thing is I go back, the season gets canceled, whatever. And I get my head back on straight and I trained my ass off that summer. And then I came back that next year and had like a year. Like it was crazy. Like everything was going in.
19 goals, dude.
I just had my first kid. So I was just flying on a high. I was no sleep at night, but I was just dialed in.
Even the year after that, 15 goals, 57 points. Those 2 seasons, you and Caberlet were right next. The year before, you had 68, he had 67, and then that year he had 58 points, you had 57. So just the connection on the power play, it's so sick.
Yeah, he was just sick. Like I don't know, it was just, it worked like with us. It was just, it just meshed. It was awesome.
Toronto's legendary for just getting on guys, and it's usually a defenseman. And you probably in all those years of the success saw certain guys like you remember. I remember Corey Cross there, Aki Berg, and at some point did they start kind of getting on you? Yeah, I mean,
I was that guy my last
panic,
year, buddy.
Right?
I was the guy.
How depressing is it going? Because in Edmonton, I was that guy, and I wasn't your type player. Like I wasn't your resume.
Oh, yeah, you went through it. I was good. Guy. I was glad you brought this up because I know you went through it too.
And Biz has talked about the mental part of it, where it's like legit depressing.
Oh my god!
And then in starting the game, first mistake, there they go, and then like how are you going to play good after that? And what's even tougher, I hadn't done anything in Edmonton, but you'd been so good there. You must have been like,
oh, they turned on me in a drop of a hat. It was unbelievable. Like, it was the last year, so it would have been whatever it was, my 8th year. And it was like game 7 of the regular season.
You start sensing it.
No. I started to sense it at the end of that last year. I started to hear a few boos, and they were starting to turn a little because we missed the playoffs again. And then come back the next year, and it hadn't happened yet. And we're in Buffalo. We're in overtime. It's like a 4-on-3 power play for them. And there's like 4 seconds left, and Razor stops the puck, and it comes to me in front of the net, and I'm boxing the guy out, and I'm trying to like whack it into the corner, and I catch it just right.
Snipe.
And it goes off both posts, and I score an overtime winning goal on my own team on the power. It's a power play goal though. It's my forte.
That's what I did.
And as soon as that happened, buddy, I was on the front page of the Sun for like 3 days. I remember the posting. My wife still has it. It's like Bryan McCabe was the headline. And it lasted like for like the next week. It's all they talked about. And then I went home after that. Every time I touched the puck, like for a breakout, it was like the boo birds.
Oh no, buddy, how hard is that?
It was misery. It sucked the life out of me. I was getting like, my house was getting egged. I was getting like hate mail.
People are the
anywhere I went, like you go to the movies, you can't get away from it. It was the hardest year of my life. Honestly, it sucked the life out of me. And I couldn't, Mo was the coach then. Like he was so good with me during that tough, like he was trying everything, but it just seemed like every time I started to make like a couple steps forward, had a really good game, and then like the last play of the game, I turn it over, they'd score. Like something bad always happened. And then I like broke my hand in Montreal, and I missed like the only time I ever missed like a significant amount of time.
You're almost like happy.
I was like almost like happy that like I was like, and then it was just like I had gotten so like distraught and depressed. Like it wasn't fun. Like it sucked the life out of me. And like the best thing that happened was like, not that I ever wanted to leave, but I needed like, I know Matt's talked about it. Like Cliff Fletcher came in, like everyone got fired. And like, we were still in the playoff hunt and they wanted no part of it. Like they brought Cliff in and he wanted to trade everyone. This is like at the trade deadline, we all had no move clauses. And he literally came in and we all said no. And so now the media's all over us. They were calling us like the Muskoka 5 or something. I think that's what it was called. It was like
kind of a sick
these
name.
5 guys are holding us hostage.
You're like, this was awesome when we were in the playoffs winning.
But we're like, we can still make the playoffs. They wanted Cliff wanted no part of that. So my year ending, this is my exit meeting, the end of the year. I walk in his office. I don't know Cliff very well, whatever. They brought him in to right the ship. And he goes, I think it would be best for you and the organization if you played somewhere else next year. I'll call you in a month. Let me know where you want to go. Literally, I had no move clause and everything. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I need to get out of here just to save my life. Like it wasn't fun anymore. And then had my agent like call some teams and stuff. And Florida was one of the teams that Jacques was like, yeah, we want him. So ended up getting traded to Florida. And it was like a breath of fresh air, like just to get away and to come, you know how it is down here. No one knows who you are. You can do whatever you want. And just to like, I got back to having fun.
The opposite of Toronto.
Oh, complete opposite.
And for going through that, it's like, thank God.
Yeah. But that being said, I wouldn't trade my time in Toronto for anything.
Right.
Even that bad year.
Yeah.
I think everyone should play in a hockey market like that. Like it's a special thing. And looking back, like, yeah, the 1 year sucked, but at no point would I ever not want to go through what I went through. It was the best years of my life, the best teams, the most fun. And now it's funny because I go back and
they love you.
Because they had so much.
Love them, yeah.
Just, you know, like I said, they didn't make the playoffs for like, they haven't won a series in like 13 years since we all left. And now you go back and they're like, maybe you weren't so bad.
Yeah.
And now they're like good about it. But initially, it was the best thing to come down here. No one knew who I was. I could just play hockey and have fun again. And I got that love for the game back. And I honestly thought I might not play anymore when I left there. Like, I didn't know if I could mentally get it back. I was so far gone. But it was nice. I came back and I was proud of myself.
It was nice
getting back on the horse, and I had some decent years here.
15 goals that first year in Florida.
It's like playing in Arizona, right? You leave the rink and you can leave it there.
Exactly.
You can go to the movie theater or wherever, not be harassed or get your house egged. That the four Muskokas or Muskoka 5.
It was a beauty. They ran with that thing.
Unbelievable t-shirts.
It's like, that's when you're like, the media is funny.
Hey, let's do some alumni t-shirts of that.
But before you moved on, we have to ask about one of the most insane clips and maybe the ballsiest thing I've ever seen.
I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming.
And it's an incredible clip because it looks like a man and a child, but like to fight him, dude, like that's ballsy. But when did you realize, like,
I told you I didn't win many, but I showed up for a ball. But it's funny. So I saw Eddie Belfour this weekend. Beauty, like unbelievable teammate, one of the best goalies ever, most competitive guy ever. But Eddie's the reason. So me and Eddie were having a beer this weekend. And he wanted me to tell the story. It's his fault that I fought Chara. They got Big Z in front of the net
on the
power
PP,
play.
yeah.
Oh. And Eddie is trying to break his kneecap from behind.
Stop, Eddie.
He was vicious.
2x4ing the back of his knees. And I see the wires crossing for Chara. And I'm like the closest guy. At no point do I want to do this, but I'm like, I got to do this. He's going to kill Eddie. So I stepped in, and I've never felt, it was like I was a feather, like in my equipment, easily I'm 250 pounds in equipment, if not more, maybe 260, skates, sticks, gloves. He picked me up like I was nothing. My legs were like 3 feet off the ice, and he was just like, it was nothing. And he was just like dusting me. And thank God he didn't hit me with a punch. And then I fell down, and then I rabbit punched him once. It was like one of these. And I went to the box, and I was actually laughing. I was like so embarrassed. And I was like actually laughing that I made it through okay. He actually hurt his back, had to leave the game.
You're like, got him, guys.
Holding my full weight.
Like a kettlebell.
He missed like a week because he tweaked his back. Well, I would have tweaked it too. Picking up
Holding up
box
a grown
of
man.
bricks.
It was classy of him. I mean, he could have been just like throwing uppercuts, but when you're flying through the air, it's like time slowing down.
Oh my
bit,
God.
Like,
I was just like, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. I'd probably still be in the hospital. And you guys know Z, he's like a specimen. Like I came up, like Z was in the Islanders system, and he came up and he was just a beast. Like he was benching.
I thought he
225,
broke somebody's
35.
sternum with a punch one time, didn't he?
Buddy.
I don't know. I saw him hit David
whole
Coach.
thing right here.
Yeah.
He punched somebody in the chest one time, broke their sternum.
Wow.
What a
Maybe I
legend.
just made that up.
Surprise me. Yeah, I'm sure you.
But yeah, I made it through that
Like Drago.
unscathed.
The boys must have been just like, at the same time while laughing, they're like fucking AK or like ballsy. But that was the funniest thing we've ever seen.
It was so funny. It was so funny. So
It went
many people
viral. There
still
was no
bring that
social
up.
media. That's how fucking funny that clip was.
It created the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, it still makes like the TSN top 10 list like once a year, or whether they're just, whatever it is. But it's funny. Looking back, it's funny. He's a great guy. Like he came up as a kid with me with the Islanders there. And what a career he had for a guy that came up and looked like Bambi, like at the start, like the change in the player he was and became at the end was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's tremendous work ethic.
Yeah.
Nothing like having a blue mohawk getting ragdolled in the air by some giant.
Oh yeah, you had some crazy haircuts.
Oh, the
there.
mohawk was great. Yeah, I said, don't do it to any kids out there. Don't dye your hair because now I've got the reverse mohawk going. It's like terrible, but
Sidey backy.
But it was fun. It was like a thing too, Toronto. Like they had a barber chair set up outside the rink, and kids were getting mohawks in the playoffs.
Really?
That's so cool.
Bad call with the blue dye though. It's like leaking in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like during the game, I was -4 because I couldn't see.
Yeah. Looking like Braveheart, like William Wallace with the face paint.
It was fun though. That was fun actually. That was my wife's idea. She was like, "Yeah, you should do a mohawk, switch it up, do something." I was like, "All right, let's do it."
I always like to ask the retired guys. I mean, obviously the game was growing when you were involved, but just the growth of the game and where it's at right now from a world perspective, even in North America, with all these southern markets exploding, you guys must be proud of the way that you guys helped establish it.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like what they've done down here, it's unbelievable. Like how hockey crazy people have gotten, and the atmosphere the last couple of years in the playoffs is just the parade. It's like something could never imagine when I played down here. Like there were Tuesday nights against Carolina where there were literally 500 people in the building for warm up, and it was like now we're like selling out. There's a buzz. There's it's great. It's just great for hockey to have all these different markets. Well, you played in Phoenix, obviously, you know that.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that the game's grown this much, and there's players like Matthews is from Phoenix. You're getting all these players from a place like California. How many players in the league are from California now and stuff? It's like, it's awesome. Like, it's not just, Canada and US and stuff. It's like little small states now you'd never think. Like, we have a goalie in our system that's from like Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm like, they even have hockey there? Like, how is that even possible? So
crazy.
Yeah, they've done a great job. Obviously the game's grown tremendously, and the skill and the stuff that these guys do now, man. It's
fucking nuts.
That McDavid, man. If you don't see that in person, it's hard to even explain. I've never seen a person that like.
No, there's a guy at Barstool that isn't really a hockey guy, and he went to the game again, and he texted me. He's like, "Oh, I know what you're saying. Like, you go to the game, you don't know anything. You're like, what the hell is that guy?" What?
Like, we played, and it makes our jaws drop. Like, when the first time I ever saw him accelerate live, I literally was like,
what the fuck?
I didn't even think it was possible to go that fast in such a short amount of like time.
With the puck on a string.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just dancing people. So yeah, the game has definitely changed, and the skill level, and it's awesome. The speed and stuff.
So in your third year in Florida, you had 2 real good years. You got traded to the Rangers and made the playoffs, lost the first round, and then you hung them up. Was it something that we've all talked about like pretty hard, and a couple months into that next season retired? It's like a little depressing. Like, you were struggling with what's next.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard. It's hard to say goodbye. I could have probably played like
it says February you retired. So that
no, I got traded to the Rangers. I knew when I lost in the playoffs there against Washington, I knew that was my last game, kind of in my heart. Like, I did a little lap around the ice and just kind of took it in. But I had offers to play that summer, like contract offers, but they were only for 1 year. I had a young family. We had made a home here. I didn't want to make a move again, not for a year. I might have done it if someone would have guaranteed me 2 years, because then you can justify, maybe we like it there, build a life there, maybe not. But my body was also, I had surgery like 5 summers in a row, and I was getting old, and I didn't want to be one of those guys like getting carried out the door. Like, I still was all right and kind of relevant. And the bottom line was, my wife's like, if you want to do it, go ahead, go play a year, but we're not going. I wasn't going to go without him. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I had a very lucky to play 16 years. I was happy, but I literally didn't know. It's hard when you leave home at 16 and you're used to being on the road and being away, and then all of a sudden you're home for like ever.
All the time.
It's like, and there's kids, and there's responsibilities, and there's like, and you're like, oh my God, I need a road trip. Like, boys, you want a golf trip? Anyone? Like, what? So yeah. And then I told you, like, I just kind of stumbled upon this with Dale and got this opportunity to do this, and I've been doing it ever since. So I've been very fortunate to stay in the game because I didn't know anything else.
Dale Talon deserves a lot of credit here. Even Bobby Lou said when he went to the rink, it was him who kind of extended an arm. So it seems like he really brought the old guard around and established what's going on here.
Yeah, Dale deserves a lot of credit for, not only here, but Chicago. He had a big hand in their dynasty too. And he built things up here. He's a great guy to work for, great mentor, really good friend. I love Dale to death. He was so good to me. Like you say, he didn't have to be. He traded me. It's not like we were, best friends or anything. I got to know him when he became the GM and stuff. But Dale's one of the best in the business. And I truly owe him a lot for giving me this opportunity and being able to stay in the game and stuff. And, he still lives around here. And
all-time stick.
Yeah. You got to have you sandbagged him yet? That guy.
I don't know. I was told, like, when he went to the NHL, like, there was like a chance of like, no, I'm going to like be a pro golfer.
No, he won like the Canadian Amateur Golfer of the Year award before he was in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say he's like 74. And like, I talk to him all the time still and see him. And he shoots like in the 60s.
Yeah.
And he's in the 70s.
He shot a 68 that day.
He's a stick.
Crazy.
Yeah. And he's funny. He'd be fun to be around for.
We can't thank you enough for doing this, man. It was great getting to know you and chat with you. I hadn't really talked to you before, but this is
1,135 regular season games, 56 the playoff. It's amazing, dude. Congrats on everything.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate having me. This was fun.
Guys, before we continue, we want to talk about Jackpocket. Are you feeling lucky? Well, get ready to try your luck with Jackpocket, America's #1 lottery app. With Jackpocket, you can order Powerball and Mega Millions tickets right on your phone. They even have official state lottery games. Every day, there are millions up for grabs right on your phone. New customers can get a free lottery ticket using code PUCK, P-U-C-K. That's code PUCK for a free Powerball or Mega Millions ticket. Don't wait. Download Jackpocket now for your chance to win big. Good luck. Thank you so much to Bryan McCabe. I love the flavor saver. I didn't know he still has it based on a jaw injury, but an awesome guy. What a player he was. And just him recounting and remembering that Chara fight is so classic. I think he knew that was coming at one point. On to Dallas. Tough news for Tyler Seguin. Had a great start to the year. He has to undergo hip surgeries out 4 to 6 months. Just a kick in the dick for a guy who's played very well. The team, while it's odd, like Robertson hasn't had a great offensive season. Wyatt Johnson hasn't had a great offensive season. Matthew Duchene's been carrying that team. Their goaltending's been phenomenal. But Dallas, along with Mason Marchment, Biz, has looked great.
Well, that's what sucks about this, right? So that line of Duchene, Seguin, and Marchment, they've been playing together since last year. Last year, they played 60 together until one of them got injured, but their chemistry was off the charts. And last year, it was they had 2 first lines going with the point production and what the guys were doing. Well, that second line hasn't let off the gas. And you mentioned it. I think that Hintz, Robertson, and I think Wyatt Johnson was in there a little bit. They'd all been struggling. They haven't found their chemistry quite like last year. And now all of a sudden you lose one guy from that line. I guess the positive news is all of a sudden you have close to $10 million in cap space available to go and make a big trade. It does suck because it looks like it sounds like he won't be available for like he's done. Like he's not coming back even maybe playoff time, barring a miracle. So I mean, if we're talking about the big picture here, yeah, Marchment's been an absolute fucking beast. He can't stop scoring. Really a guy who does it all. He's tough to play against too. He'll throw the body, and they look good. Like Ottinger's playing at the top of his game right now. Maybe didn't start out as good, but over the stretch of the last like 10 to 12 games, they've just looked like a well-oiled machine being ran by the back end by Heiskanen. So I think we all suspected them to be a top 3 team in the West this year, and I still think they are, regardless if they have Seguin in the lineup or not. But a huge loss based on how their chemistry was buzzing on that second line.
It just sucks for Seguin. I feel bad, but our guy Jeff Marek has said that Dallas is big game hunting now. And you've seen Vegas do this year after year, and now with all this money, they're going to be very aggressive to replace Seguin with a top-end player. So we'll see how that plays out.
I just wanted to touch on Robinson. Like he's having a little bit of a down year this year. Like if you had had the Four Nations
he was
thing
on
last year, he would have been on the team, home run, slam dunk. But this year he's struggling a little bit. But this could be the fire that kind of lights underneath him, that he's like, okay, I'm not untouchable. I got to go out there and give it. And I think you're going to see the back half of the end of his season this year go back to form of where he's been the last couple of years and being the young superstar that we've seen him be.
Yeah, we described Dylan Strome, how he's not like the fastest guy, but he plays at that slower pace. I think Robertson's a lot of the same way, where he doesn't he can't move up and down the ice like Hintz does, right? But he does play on his line, and it's a good compliment to him. But sometimes I'm watching the games and I'm like, hey, like he's got to get a little bit more of a pep in his step going. So hopefully that's what you're talking about. You're saying just kind of digging in a little bit more as opposed to just floating around playing that perimeter game.
Yeah, I think so. I think when he's at his best, and like you said, not the fastest skater, but he gets to the net, he makes plays. Like he's one of those guys, like he can dangle, he can make good plays, but he's kind of that, not too fancy, but just finds a way to get to the net, get to the hard areas and score goals. And you haven't seen that as much from him.
It doesn't really look pretty sometimes, but he gets it done. Sunday night, he had a beautiful goal against Calgary. He got an assist as well. So Keith, I like that. Like, hey, like I'm taking this as like an insult almost. Like fucking let's go. Like let's prove him wrong.
Like Tage Thompson's been on fire since not getting named. He's been scoring. He's been on fire. So it's, some guys take it that, away. You could sulk about it and not be happy. And he reminds me of a guy that'll take that and run with it.
Also on fire, the Washington Capitals. Holy shit. I actually should have mentioned, I think one guy that got maybe screwed over a little bit would have been cool to see John Carlson on Team USA. What a season he's had. The Capitals are not the same without him. But Tom Wilson taking the puck to the face, coming back, scoring 2 goals, and having his face, he's now called Quagmire by the team, was one of the most nails thing we've seen in the NHL season so far this year. And his interview after was great. He's like, my dad always told me, if you can play, you play. And he could play no problem. But the look on his face, and then Biz, I believe you hooked him up with a Miss Peaches sweatshirt.
Less than 24 hours later, I get a message with a screenshot. Tom Wilson. It's a Miss Peaches sweater. Sold out online. Hey, any chance I can get this? So I text Whit and Portnoy, same group text. I'm like, this handsome bastard took a puck to the face last night, and all he cares about is getting a Miss Peaches sweater for the missus. And Portnoy pulled the trigger. And then Whit, I go, okay, nice. Now this solidifies we're going to get you on the podcast. He won't come on the podcast. I'm doing favors for him, getting a Miss Peaches
Cancel
merch.
that order. Cancel that Peaches order.
Send a small so we can't wear it.
No, send
It's
a
not
Pete the
for him.
Beagle one. Send
It's
a
for
Pete
his
the
old
Beagle
lady.
shirt.
It's for his lady. So
Oh, fuck.
Pete the
I
Beagle.
thought we had him on once. We've never had him on?
I think we might have had him on early days, but fuck, not the Tom Wilson. As Colby Armstrong describes it, the Washington Capitals are Tom Wilson's team now. We haven't had him on since those moments. So I think that the fact that I'm getting him this sweater and he's not coming on is absolute bullshit. That's worse than the sampling going on.
Guys. Guys,
how about him doing the interview and then he's talking, he's like, oh, I haven't really seen it till right now. And his face is out to here.
legit. He had a softball in his mouth.
Yeah, what an absolute nail gun.
He's a mutant.
Insane.
Handsome bastard mutant.
As good as things are going for the Washington Capitals, guys, the Buffalo Sabres. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're up 4-0 to the Colorado Avalanche. They don't even get a goddamn point. They don't even get a point in the game. You're now what looks like to be, just as the Jets, continuing your longest pro sports run without being in the playoffs, the Buffalo Sabres. And just looking at the team and looking what's happened, and Kevin Adams did a press conference where understandably he's defensive. He's talking about the taxes in New York and not having the palm trees that they have in Florida and just the absolute disaster. Sabres fans are chanting, fire Kevin, the next home game. It's just amazing. I feel so bad for what is one of the best hockey markets in North America to go through year after year. And just looking around the league, I mean, at one point within the organization, they had Ryan O'Reilly, Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Brandon Montour, Linus Ullmark, Brandon Hagel. Brandon Hagel's on pace for 105 points. Sam Reinhart's on pace for 111 points. Jack Eichel's on pace for 114 points. All three of these players, all of these guys, will remember the Buffalo Sabres. It hasn't all been Kevin Adams, but holy shit, Biz. Holy shit.
That one the other night when they go up 4 at home to start a 5-game homestand and then blow it in regulation, I was like, my God, every time. And they'd been playing okay. They were trending finally a little bit in the right direction, right? Sometimes when these rebuilds go down, it's like, that 20-game mark, okay, wow, they finally figured it out. Yeah, we're going to make, no. I thought if they won that game, okay, here we go. Great start to the homestand. No, they lose that one. They lose the next one against the Jets in overtime, and then they lost the last one. So they're 0-3 on that homestead now. You got Adams coming out doing a press conference, which I like the guy. I don't think it came off the best. It sounded like a bit of a venting session. And I don't know why you're bringing the Bills into it because they've been able to have success and talking about the palm trees. So now you got fans bringing fucking blow up palm trees to the goddamn hockey game. This thing's off the rails. And you would have to assume that maybe that frustration is in the fact that this management staff and people in organizations' days are numbered if this year they don't make it. At a certain point, they're going to have to look in a different direction. And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. I'm just saying is the results are the results. You keep handing over these big long-term deals to guys who haven't proven anything. There's no bridge deals. It's just like, hey, here, take the money and you're our group of guys. And then all of a sudden there's just continue to be no results. So it is ugly for the Sabres. You spent the offseason trying to reconstruct the bottom 6 where, might have been other issues to identify, and here we are. And it's ugly, boys, and I don't see it turning around anytime quick.
Well, you just talk like for teams that don't have the palm trees and the no state taxes, you have to draft well. In Witt, you just listed off about 10 guys that are legitimate stars in the NHL that started their careers there. And when you're young in the league, you can ask for a trade, but the team has the power to whether they're going to trade you or not. So you got to look yourself in the mirror at some point and be like, okay, we've done our job drafting some good players here in the past. Like Sam Reinhart, what's he, 27, 28 years old? Like, he should still be there. You're not trading him at 31, 32 years old. Those guys should still be there playing for that teams that drafted them. But it's, do you see it getting better there at any point?
No. And the worry is like, so they pick Zach Benson high. He looked really good last year. Like, he's kind of having a little sophomore struggles. Like, do you want these young guys even in the NHL? You're losing. And I understand some of these guys, yeah, they're totally skilled enough to be there. But as Biz said, it's just like giving too much too soon. Like, you got to go out and earn it. And I think a lot of guys there have been given things and given responsibility within the game that they didn't necessarily deserve yet. It's not a shot at these guys. Some of these guys may grow into great players like Dylan Cousins. He looked awesome. He's got 6 goals and 6 assists in 27 games this year. If you told me that 2 years ago, it's like, what? What's happening to the development and the losing and the fans like almost turning into where you don't even care? That's the scary part, is having a fan base that just becomes totally like, we don't even give a fuck anymore. And it's just been so ugly for so long that you just feel for this fan base that had a nice run for a little while, 2006, 2007, some great teams. And then since then, it's just disaster. And I don't know what you do. I don't.
And then on top of that, it's like, then you go out and then you make like a very quick nostalgic hire where it's like,
yeah,
is like Lindy Ruff, like he might even already be a Hall of Famer. I'm sure he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Coached his 1800th game last week, like legend. But is this guy the answer for the future of the Buffalo Sabres at this point? Is he the one who's going to get through and break through with these guys? Like, come on here, man. What's going on? It's just like too many mistakes after one another, and yeah, this is not the group. This is not it.
Now, in fairness, currently they are up 5-3 at the second intermission against the Red Wings. Let's see if they can hold on to this. But the other night, it was incredible against Utah. They were up 1-0. They had a good first period. Going into the second period, let's go, boys. Let's get something going. I think 22 minutes on the game clock later, it was 5-1 Utah. So it's like, let's see if they can hold on to this one tonight. We'll see what happens with Buffalo. Can they get anything going? Did you guys catch Connor McDavid, including his dog, in his 1,000-point ceremony? Did you like that?
How about Leonard? Lover? I love dogs. And how about Leonard? Didn't trust the 1,000, the silver, or no, is it the gold? It's gold when it's 1,000 points. He didn't like the bone. He was sniffing the bone out, Yands. What was with the bone?
Yeah, he didn't like it. And maybe he was a little nervous in front of 20,000 people. Dogs probably, but it's funny. I mean, when you're a guy like Connor McDavid, you let him do whatever you want to. Bring your dog. They should let him play a shift with him a couple times. Like, bring him on the ice. If that means he's going to stay in Edmonton for the next 8 years, let him play a couple games if they really want him to.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, I thought it's great.
Say, Hyman, you're struggling. You're not playing the first. We got Leonard in there.
Lenny's going to go to the net hard here. Same nose too.
I mentioned before, I have to ask him. I think that our dogs are from the same, what are they called? Breeders?
Wow.
Yeah, like my dog is so fucking dumb. Like, he makes us look like geniuses and we're morons. I mean, Keith thought Belarus and Russia were the same place. Belarus and Russia were the same places. We're idiots. My dog makes us look like Einstein, and I don't know what's wrong with him. So I'm wondering if Lenny's a moron as well.
I'm not trying
McDavid got the high end dog.
They gave me the run to the litter.
You got the run.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, no offense to your dog, but it's way prettier than your dog. Leonard seems way more intelligent and better looking and way bigger.
He was sitting facing the wrong way though, Biz. Remember we talked about it?
No, he wasn't. He was looking right at Connor because he loves him.
True.
He's looking at his owners. He wouldn't even look at the cameras. He was so obedient to whatever Connor was going to do, and he just stood there and sat, excuse me. But
Wow,
yeah, good.
G's letting us know. Tom Wilson was on episode 92. Jesus, we're at 5. What is this? 5:35? Holy shit.
The
What was he,
guest
Junior?
on that show with Barstool Nate was the other guest. So
No!
we've come a long way.
That's
since
why he
then.
hasn't came back. Gonna put
Hey,
him.
what's up with these
he'll be on
Barstool
with-
guys going to get the hair transplant?
He'll be
I
on
don't
with
know, but it was
Mincy
so
next time
funny,
he comes
dude.
on.
So funny. Bald stool. They went over to Turkey and they filmed. And apparently, like Donnie does, who's a beauty, Portnoy on the unnamed shows. I don't know, why'd we even do that? How much money did we lose? Donnie said they made money. Everything, flights, hotels, the hair transplant, everything was paid for. Plus, they sold some sponsorship. So I think that content will be hilarious. That lunatic idiot Nicky Smokes, my guy, he got it done. Eddie Barstool, big guy Eddie got it done.
They looked hilarious walking out after all getting the surgery. It looked like an old
Hilarious.
like a mob crew. And then White Sox Dave.
He looked
So-
great bald. What an idiot.
But I also don't mind him doing the treatment. I'm going to go out on a limb. You might puke in your mouth when I say this. He looks like the Costco brand of Jason Statham now. What he needs to do now that it's fuller and it's not like a shiny indent with no hair, he just needs to keep shaving his head, but allowing it to grow it a little bit. And he's going to have that Jason Statham. So he actually looks better at the fact that he's going to have more. If he grows it long, though, it's brutal. When he tries to grow it out like 3 inches, his coif is embarrassing. It's like 3 times worse than Trump's. He just has
he
to,
looks like Jason Statham?
he has to shave it down basically to like a quarter of an inch, maybe
He's
even a little.
5'6", 235 pounds.
I don't think Jason Statham's that tall either.
He was
I
like
don't
voted sexiest man in the world like 3 years ago.
I'm saying the
he's
Costco
jacked.
version of it compared to what White Sox Dave was. He was a scrub. I think this is going to help him out in the long run.
Am
But
I
my
the
thing
Costco
is-
Tom Brady?
No,
if you get the hair done, yeah.
No, you're that.
Hey, you know that the current world's sexiest man I saw is Jim from The Office. Pretty good looking cat, actually. The Office, he wasn't great, but I saw the picture of him. He looked phenomenal. Great movie he's in, 12 Hours in Benghazi or something like that. You ever seen
I
that?
haven't seen it. No. I'll check
Great.
it out.
John
I like him.
Krasinski. John Krasinski.
He's funny in those Boston commercials. Does that car park itself?
From Boston.
Hey, but those Barstool guys, and I don't know, correct me, are they married? Are any of them married?
No chance White Sox Dave's married, although now that Biz called him Jason Statham, he'll probably have girls coming at him all
Barstool's
which ways, like
Jason
me at the
Statham.
Starbucks.
But they're bloggers, right? Like they wear hats all day. It's
They're
not
on
like they have
They're on camera.
right, but
but
they
I-
always
I-
wear a hat. They can get away with wearing a hat. It's not like they have like some job that they have
I
to
know,
have
but
like a
Keith, it's like a woman getting the BLL or whatever they call them, or the BBLs,
BBL.
or getting their tits done, or getting their lips shot up. They're just trying to gain a little bit of confidence. It's all about the
Okay.
confidence.
I got
All right.
such a pizza box bomb. I might think about getting a BBL.
Dude, you guys should do a bet. You should do a bet. If
I'm
Webb
calling
loses, he has
Jeff
to get
now.
a BBL.
We already got the sponsorship sold.
Imagine
Dude,
if I just had
your
a
Muggsy
fuck
jeans
caboose
and
on
those
me.
things.
Merle's has a dumper on him. He looks great in the Muggsy jeans.
Yeah, the Whitney
Muggsy
waistline.
jeans are phenomenal.
New denim.
That guy Nicky Smokes though, he like I think the swelling went to his forehead. He looked like Shrek for a minute on the flight home. It was disgusting.
His
Then I
eyebrows
saw
are
him
about to
drop
pop
a
off.
video. He dropped a video. He was like a priest. He was like speaking about thinking positive. Usually his videos are like, I fuck broads and fucking do blow. And then all of a sudden he's like giving life advice on being positive and manifestation of good things in your life. So I'm like, maybe this scumbag's taking a turn for the better in his life. So I love
He had a
that
spiritual
kid. Real
experience
scumbag.
over there.
Such a Florida scumbag. He's so Florida. It's amazing. So I'll always regret, he just was rubbing it in my face when the Oilers lost Game 7. Last thing on hockey biz. Shout out Mitch Marner. For as hard as we were on the playoffs,
He's been
is
unreal.
incredible right now.
14
So
million.
I just kind of, I had written that down. Yeah, I don't know if he'll be on the Maple Leafs next year. That's going to be a crazy story. On him and Rantanen, the two big free agents, will they be locked up? Will they go somewhere else? I don't know. It's been a pleasure having you on, Keith. What a joy to do the show with you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, boys. As always, love it.
Hey,
Anytime.
since you said that Dallas is going big game hunting, like if you're Colorado, you obviously don't want to get rid of Rantanen, but if he's not going to sign before the deadline, like what do you do knowing that he's going to probably walk because you're not getting him to the number that he wants?
I've always said if you have a player that has told you I'm not re-signing or has given you the number that they're getting and you're like, we're not paying that, you have to trade him. You have to get something. Yeah. And I know Colorado fans are like, what? Try to win the cup this year. No, dude, just try to get something. You're going to be able to get a lot back.
Well,
granted, he's UFA.
So the issue, though, I think with Marner is that he has a no-move clause. So he controls that. I don't believe Rantanen has that in his deal.
They ain't trading Marner.
I agree, but the thing is now, now if he plays out the year, like you have to essentially, hopefully, get to a number that you guys can agree on, because the way that he's playing right now in that market,
it's amazing.
I think that a hometown discount's probably $13 million right now.
Wow.
That's a hometown discount.
Now the numbers, and Rantanen saying he wants 14, like Leon, it's like, holy shit.
Buddy, by the time summer hits,
boys.
Hey, I'm here at the governor's meetings, the board of governors. I was breaking up a fight between Dolan and Anschutz today. These guys are going at it for the tampering shit.
Andlauer.
Or Andlauer. I said Anschutz. That's the LA owner. Andlauer. My bad. But
Biz is like, you guys want to go out?
Shut. I don't even go out anymore, you fucking donkey.
That's true.
Where are you staying, Biz? The Breakers?
No, this place called Old Palm Beach. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, for orgasms, I'm going to be giving out, boys. Riot out here.
You guys are donkeys.
Last thing, there are tickets left. Chicago.
We'll
go. Be here. Us three, Merles, Army, Tim Stapleton, and many more very special guests will be announced. BarstoolSports.com/events. Let's pack the house. We're going to rip it up. Going to be an awesome evening. Pink Whitney will be flowing. Shout out to all our sponsors. Body Armor, Yeti, Muggsy, Pink Whitney. What else we got? We got them all. We got them all. So thank you so much for everyone listening. We love you all. We love you, Keith. Biz, keep doing God's work. I can't wait to see these videos, you warrior.
Let's go,
love
baby.
you, buddy.
I
Keith,
love you.
Love you. Peace.
See it rough and rowdy.
Love you, boys.